You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look at better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 12th part of What If Deku and Hero Academia joins Power Rangers. Smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Tartaro's Grand Chamber Night. Every single demon, their jaws were hanging open from their mouths, and eyes completely widened at the sight they were witnessing on the holographic monitor. What in the bloody hell did those humans just do? Jackal asked in shock, looking at the megazords. I don't know, but damn, Silver said while gawking at the sight of the megazords in awe. This isn't going to end well for us, Franmal stated as his body was tumbling. Meanwhile, with Margir, this can be, Margir said with a dumbstruck expression upon seeing the Zords combining into Megazords. Just what are these humans to process such weapons? He was seriously at a loss for words. Tower of Heaven Night. Eyes open as they watched a miracle unfold. No, not a miracle. A great feat that not even the strongest wizards in the world ever could pull off. Incredible. Serrano cried out at Megazords. How is that even possible? Richard stammered and hushed. What the hell? Eric muttered with widened eyes. Whoa. Sawyer commented slack-jawed. Is this a dream? Macbeth asked, not knowing if this was real. So cool. Kagura and Miliana both said in excitement with stars in their eyes. They're gigantic, Sho said with his mouth open and widened. This has got to be the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. Wally yelled out with a mad grin. No kidding, I had no idea they could do something like that. Simon shouted in awe. In all my years, I've never seen a kind of power that these rangers possess to fight against the demons of Tartaros, Rob said in pure awe, as this reminded him of Makarov's magic. The rangers' power and weapons are quite formidable, Urza commented with a shocking expression and excitement in her voice at the sight of the Megazords. Unbelievable, Altair murmured in shock while looking at the mechanical machines in amazement. After joining Grimoire Heart and learning Time Arc as the first crucial step to achieving her end goal, Altair believed that she was someone who could not be easily taken by surprise by anyone. She believed that she was above being awed by others' displays of magic. No matter how visually impressive they were, she knew that the magic she aiming to create would make them all look like a drunk magician's sideshow act. However, after seeing these Power Rangers today, it appears that anyone that the Rangers meet has some small part of their ability to confound her completely. Like right now, as Altair watches the ongoing battle with the Power Rangers in the world's strongest dark guild in action. How in the name of Zeref do they have technology this advanced? Sayla thought with greater levels of amazement, admittedly, and fear. The female Etherius on the other hand remained quiet with widened eyes, as her brain simply broke from the strain of trying to comprehend what she was witnessing. These rangers were not normal humans and neither was their power. It dwarfed hers somewhat and scarily enough. It could even possibly dwarf the rest of her guild members' powers. Soon after, the legendary Megazord lands back on the ground next to the Wolf Pride Megazord, as the two Megazords took combat stance at Deliora Jr., who looked shocked by the Zords combining into Megazords. Whoa, so freaking awesome, Oase cried out in pure excitement. This is so cool. We're actually inside a Megazord, Midoriya said happily as he took in his surroundings. Such high-tech technology. I don't think anyone in our world could even come close to building something like this, Momo said in awe and excitement over using such advanced technology. Yeah, you can definitely say that again. Kendo agreed as this was probably the coolest thing she's ever experienced before in her life. These things are sick. Jiru committed about the Megazords with a smile. It looks fine to me, Yui said in a jokey tone, as she couldn't contain her excitement as well. This truly is a glorious day for us to be alive, Takoyami said with a grin. Let's take this demon down, Dark Shadow said in excitement over this epic moment. Okay, Rangers, this next part is going to take a team effort, Ren said to his friends, as they saw the giant Etherius now recovering from all the damage it had taken and starting to stand back up. So let's make this demon regret ever coming here to challenge the Power Rangers hero force. He spoke in a tone that motivated the others to give this fight everything they've had. Right, the other Rangers shouted back in passion. Holo Tommy couldn't help but grin proudly at how his students are working together like a real Ranger team. Go get 'em, Rangers, Holo Tommy thought while cheering them on. Deliora Jr. was now back on his feet and roared loudly in anger at the Rangers, before charging at the Megazord like a raging wilded bull. In response to this, the two Megazords also ran forward to their opponent, with the legendary Megazord taking the lead on the attack. When Deliora Jr. was about to close enough to his opponent, the demon swung its sharp claws at the legendary Megazord, who quickly dodged the attack by jumping over the Aetherius in the air and countering Deliora Jr. in mid-air with its sabers that did some damage to the monster, while also agilely twisting its body around in the opposite direction and landing a few feet behind the beast's back. "That's gotta hurt," Away said with a cocky grin. "Even I felt that one," Momo said while giggling in her hand. The Wolf Pride Megazord charges in next for an assault and uses its right leg to kick Deliora Jr. multiple times in the chest, making him yell in pain and pushing him back in the process. Deliora Jr. then counter-strikes in response with his right fist covered in fire. "We can see your every move," Jiru stated while she, Midoriya, and Yui held up their right arms with the Megazord mimicking the Ranger's movements. The Wolf Pride Megazord blocked the attack with its right arm and then followed up with a reverse spin kick to the face that sent the creature soaring back in an enraged scream while making the Aetherius' feet skid across the ground before stopping in place. "This is why you don't skip leg day," Midoriya quipped with a grin. Yui agreed with her own grin. Before the monster even had time to compose himself, the legendary Megazord was on him again while slashing Deliora Jr.'s backside before moving in front of the demon. "Eyes forward ugly," Kendo said, insulting the Aetherius. "Don't give him a chance to make a move," Takoyami said as he and the other Rangers turned the steering wheels to move the Megazord. The legendary Megazord then started slashing its blades at the Aetherius, making sparks flying off its body, as Deliora Jr. threw another attack at the Megazord with his left claw. The Pirate Legacy Rangers show this and simultaneously turn their helms to the right side, with the legendary Megazord moving in the same direction to avoid the demon's attack. Then the Megazord pushes its right saber forward into its foe, making the demon take a couple of steps back, right before the Wolf Pride Megazord jumps over the other Megazord and delivers a crushing right leg kick that sends Deliora Jr. up into the sky. Then his body had crashed into the ground, resulting in what could be described as a small earthquake. The land trembled once more as the demon lay on the ground twitching from the pain for a moment, before rising up again to confront its attacker as the two Megazords regroup with one another. While the Rangers were fighting against the giant demon, everyone watching this on the sidelines was cheering the team of heroes on loudly as they were beyond amazed by the Megazord battle. Deliora Jr. lets out another roar in anger again, before immediately engulfing his hands on fire and starting wildly throwing more balls of magical fire at the Megazords. But unfortunately, each fire ended up missing its mark, with them flying in different directions before the demon started its assault and began to breathe more heavily and ragged as the giant Aetherius was clearly reaching its limit. "We got him on the ropes now. It's time to begin our final attacks," Ren said, as this was the perfect time to use their finishing moves to end this fight. "Right," the other Rangers shouted back in agreement. Now at the same time, the two Megazords proceed to use their finishing moves on the giant Aetherius. The Pirate Legacy Rangers then press the buttons on their own belt buckles to summon their Pirate Legacy Ranger keys, and then hold up them before flicking open the Ranger keys. "Ranger key set," the 5 Pirate Legacy Rangers shouted together while inserting their Ranger keys into the center of their own steering wheel keyholes before turning the locks. "Let's go." Then the black wheel on the legendary Megazord's back began to spin. The legendary Megazord then brought its arms and legs together to the center of its body, with the Megazord generating electricity around itself, before spreading out its arms and legs as the hatches on each limb opened up, revealing an unlimited line of cannonballs in each limb and a giant cannon from its chest. The Wolf Pride Megazord's right leg blade is removed from the wolf animal spirit's back and moves to its mouth, where the blade and right leg begin to charge up purple energy. "Legacy Starburst," the Pirate Legacy Rangers shouted together. The legendary Megazord immediately began to rapid-fire multiple cannonballs at Deliora Jr., nailing the Aetherius, which made him scream in pain even more before stopping its onslaught to let the others attack next. "Let's finish this." Jiru declared that this was the perfect time for them to attack as well. "Yeah," Midoriya and Yui both replied back in agreement, with the three beginning their assault on the demon. "Spin Fury," the 3 Rangers shouted together, while simultaneously spinning and kicking sideways in the air, with the Megazord mimicking their movements. The Wolf Pride Megazord then kicks its right leg sideways to fling the blade in the wolf's mouth at its opponent, with the purple glowing blade striking Deliora Jr. back and forth to rip through the Aetherius from every direction before the blade returned back to the Megazord's right leg. Deliora Jr. groaned in agony from the pain he was dealt while holding onto his chest with one of his hands, and the other hand was struggling to reach out like he was asking for help, as blue electricity was generating around the giant demon's body. The Etherius soon let out one last monstrous scream before falling over to the left side of the ground. The demon was then engulfed in a massive fiery explosion that sent a powerful shockwave throughout the whole island, making it shake. The explosion of course knocked everyone off their feet, but once the shockwave and shaking had died down, everyone was shocked by what they saw. There was absolutely no trace of Deliora Jr. whatsoever, with them all looking up, and their gazes fell on the two megazords taking their respective victory poses, which resulted in all the former slaves now cheering out loud in celebration as every single threat had finally ended. Their power is unreal, Urza commented with a growing smile and sparkling eye. Dude, awesome, Simon thought, clearly impressed. Way to go, Power Rangers. Rob mentally cheered with a proud smile. Sayla and Altair were just practically speechless when they saw the Power Rangers defeat Deliora Jr. so easily with their megazords. Jay, just what in the world are they? Sayla said in absolute shock and confusion. Back in the megazords, the Rangers were also celebrating their victory over their first megazord battle. All right, Kendo shouted in happiness. Woohoo, Oasis exclaimed while throwing his fist in the air. That has got to be the coolest thing we've ever done, Fumikage. Dark Shadow said to partner in joy. Indeed, the mighty titan is now vanquished, Takoyami said back in satisfaction. This experience was most exhilarating, Momo said, sighing a bit before giving a tiny smile on her face as she placed her hand on her chest. No kidding, but this fight was freaking metal, Jiru said with her arms folded. Yeah, it was more phenomena. Midoriya cheered out loud at how awesome the battle against the giant demon was. Best day ever, Yui said with a little enthusiasm in her voice as she enjoyed her first Megazord battle. The show's over, Rangers, Ren said with one arm on his helm and a grin planted on his face. Now let's get everyone on board the ship and sail off this dump of an island. Right, they all said to their leader as they were too ready to leave this place behind. Unknown to everyone, someone there watched the entire battle from a hidden location while watching the slaves cheering for the Rangers' incredible victory. So those are the Hero Force Rangers, the mysterious person said with interest, but also disgusted at the sight of the heroes. Their difficulty is different from any Ranger team I've seen, and could be a major problem in the future if not dealt with. But these evil beings in this universe could be useful to us if they decide to join our cause, the person commented before opening up a portal next to themselves. I need to report back what learned in this universe and see if it could be a great resource for our group, the person said, walking into the portal before it closed. Tartaro's Grand Chamber Night. The members of Tartaro's demons were stunned in unimaginable shock, with their jaws falling far to see what was left of Deliora Jr., as he was nothing more than a pile of ashes. I don't believe it, Franmel said in utter shock from the whole battle. This can't be real. It can't be. Well, I'll be damned, Silver commented with a stunned expression. These kids really are something else. In all my years of living, I never would expect an outcome like this was even possible, Tora Fusar said with a look of disbelief. These Rangers are more powerful than we anticipated. Nuo, Lamy screamed out in absolute horror at what she just witnessed on the monitor screen. This can't happen right now. Deliora Jr. got himself destroyed by a couple of humans, even after everything I did to make it stronger than the original, she exclaimed with her hands gripping her head in shock. What the hell is this shit? First, Lady Kyoka, then Sayla, and now Deliora Jr. Jackal said in a stuttering tone before it slowly turned into full-blown rage. Just what in the hell are these humans? I believe they called themselves the Power Rangers Hero Force, Tempester said calmly, but it did not help that his fist was clenched tightly in frustration. I don't care what they called themselves, because when get done with them, they'll be history, Ezel yelled before stomping out of the room in a fit of rage. And where actually are you going, Ezel? Franmouth asked him, seeing that he was about to do something crazy. Where do you think? Ezel shouted back while stopping in place and turning around to face everyone. Going to that island to murder every single one of those damn humans. They're going to pay for making a fool out of us demons, he declared. You can count me into, Ezel, Jackal said, stepping up with an angry expression on his face. I blow those maggots to pieces and avenge Kyoka and Sayla, he said, seeking revenge as well. Now hold on, you two. Recklessly charging there to face them is dangerous right now. You saw what the Rangers were capable of, and for all we know, they could have even more uncanny abilities at their disposal, Tempester said, trying to be the voice of reason. Tempester, right. You two need to clear your head before you can even think about fighting those humans, or else you're just going to meet the same fate as Lady Kyoka, Sayla, and Deliora Jr., Silver said, adding his own opinion to the conversation. Patience is the key to victory, Keys muttered to them. It doesn't matter, we're still going to kill those rangers. Ezel said that he didn't care what those could do because all he wanted was revenge at the moment. Yeah, so don't try and stop us, or else you're the ones who's going to die first, Jackal said, as if nothing was going to stop them from killing those humans. Ezel, Jackal, calm yourself now. A voice telepathically made all the 9 demon gates freeze in place as they recognized who was speaking to them. Lord Margir. Ezel and Jackal both stuttered nervously after hearing their leader's voice and immediately calmed down. Lord Margir, this is an unexpected surprise from you, Franmal said with a nervous sweat running down his face. Is there something you need from us? Yes, there is, Franmalf. I've been monitoring the situation on the island now and decided I'll handle this matter personally myself, Margir telepathically said to them, which shocked the demons in the room. Lord Margir, surely you jest, Torafuzar said in a tone of disbelief, before speaking again. Such a task is beneath you. Let us handle this matter instead, he protested to his leader. There's no need for that, Torafuzar. Instead, you all should return to your own assessments, or else we'll be set back behind schedule. While I'll take care of these matters, the rest of you cannot, Margir telepathically said to them, leaving no room for argument in his statement. Even if some of them didn't like the idea, they had no choice but to follow his orders and leave the humans to their leader. Yes, Lord Margir, all the demons said before bowing to their leader and leaving the room to return back to work. Fairy Tale Universe, Tower of Heaven Night. With the long hard battle finally done, everyone was gathered in front of the tower with the legacy galleon parked on the ground near them. The Wolf Pride Megazord already disappeared back to its owner, and the legendary Megazord disassembled with the other legacy Zords back into the legacy galleon. The other world heroes had saved them all, not letting even a single one get to die from the attack. The children saw rangers as true heroes, warriors of the highest caliber and moral characters. Most of the children decided among themselves to become heroes like the Power Rangers who saved them. They decided that they would one day create a group that saved people from similar conditions. They did not know at the time that they were planning on creating a guild. When the ship's metal stairs started to extend to the floor, the former slaves saw their 8 saviors and Navi emerging from their ship, with the Hero Force Rangers all ready to morph out of their ranger forms and their morphers returned back to normal as Holo Tommy ended the program. The young heroes were met with thunderous applause and compliments from the people they just rescued. You guys were so amazing fighting against that monster. I never seen any wizard fight like that before. I'll never forget this day as long as I live. The Rangers could see that all former slaves were beaming brightly at them, beyond ecstatic at what had happened today. It was an impossible event that could only begin to be described as a miracle. Man, this is embarrassing, Awais said, scratching his cheek in embarrassment. Understatement of the day, dude, Ren said with a tiring sigh. We're not even pro heroes yet, and we already got some fans, Kendo said, feeling a bit overwhelmed by the compliments. We did save them from this living nightmare after all, so it makes sense they treat us this way, Takoyami said with his arms crossed while looking down at everyone from below. Yeah, I never imagined things could end up like this, Momo said, giving a smile and waving at them. I don't think I'll ever get us to this kind of attention, Jiru said, twirling her jacks around her finger in embarrassment. I feel the same way, Midoriya agreed with a nervous smile. Ditto, Yui said with a nod. Come on guys, it's not that bad, Navi said, flying next to Momo. I agree with Navi on this one. You should feel proud of what you've done today. These people are free now because of you, Holo Tommy said, making the Rangers feel pretty good about themselves. You're right, Navi and Tommy. We shouldn't feel embarrassed by their praise for us, Ren said before looking at his friends. Come on guys, let's get everyone on board the ship and leave this place, he said to everyone. The other Rangers nodded to Ren with smiles on their faces, before walking down to stairs to the people down below. When the Rangers finally reached the ground, all the children among the slaves rushed towards their heroes and hugged the hero students as their bodies were still in pain from all the fighting they'd done today. The Rangers didn't try and fight it as they let the kids have this moment. Awesome, you're so cool. Thank you. Teach me how to fight like you. This is going to take some getting used to. The Hero Force Rangers all fought with smiles as they were dealing with the children surrounding them. Everyone, a familiar female voice said, getting the heroes' attention. The Rangers looked over to it was Urza who crying, as the redhead girl also had a small smile planted on her face. Tears silently streamed down her face at the spectacle before her. A miracle had come to pass. The impossible had become possible. They were finally free. This day would become known to her as the best day of her life, as well as the best day for everyone else as well. Urza's shoulders shook silently as tears continued to flow. They were uncontrollable tears. I really have to stop doubting your strength. You never cease with the surprises. I'm just glad it's finally over, Urza quipped while wiping the tears from her face. Poor girl's been through enough for someone her age, Navi commented out loud. Yeah, they all have. But now it's finally over. Holotommy agreed with the robotic bird. Ren then lifted his legs higher before starting to walk over to the little girl, avoiding the children surrounding him. When he got close to Urza, she immediately hugged him tightly, still crying. The ranger patted her on the head gently, looking down at her with a comforting smile on his face. It's okay, Urza. You're safe now. All of you, Ren said softly as he really had a soft spot for kids. Eri was proof enough of that. So cry as much as you want. You have every right to after everything you've all been through, he said gently while holding the girl in his arms. The other kids gathered around the Power Rangers and hugged them, crying with joy as the heroes in training were doing their best to ease their pain. Soon all of the other adult slaves gathered around them, hugging him or thanking him profusely. It was a mass love the hero fest. Out of everyone who didn't run up to the Rangers, Altair who were dealing with this situation differently from the others. The Time Arc magic user was looking at the Rangers from the distance, while also replaying that whole fight in her head and still couldn't get over it. Never before had she seen the power of that magnitude since her own master. Hell, Altair would even dare say the clash probably went beyond the powers of her master. Of course, though, she would never say that out loud. It then hit her how much she'd gone off track from her original mission. All because of these heroes who were several feet away from her, comforting the same girl whom she tried to crush emotionally and mentally by making a sock puppet of her little crush. She could kill them all right now, but what would she gain in the long run? Also, she wouldn't dare to challenge a group that was powerful enough to defeat 3 demons of Tartaros without some kind of backup, even if they were tried and injured. Altair allowed herself a true smile before closing her eyes. Although this mission didn't turn out the way she hoped, she still got something out of it. And it was all thanks to a couple of heroes. You really are something else, Power Rangers, Altair thought with eyes closed and had a ghost of a smile. After being constantly praised by the former slaves, the Rangers felt way too crowded and a bit dizzy by all of this. That is until Momo spoke up. Everyone please stop and listen to us, Momo yelled out, getting everyone to be quiet for a moment, as all attention was now on her. Well, we're flattered by your praises. We really should get going now. I'm pretty sure all of you are waiting to return back to your ordinary life before the cultists kidnapped you, she said, making them happy in anticipation of finally leaving this island for good. Okay, everyone, Midoriya said before pointing at the ship's stairs. Please hop aboard our ship, he said to them. Now with that being said, every single person on the island eagerly started to board the Legacy Galleon one by one, with the Rangers and Navi watching this in the background. Looks like everything is finally over now, Kendo said with a sigh of relief. This was one exciting night I'll never forget. Yes, it was, Takoyami said with a tiny proud grin and crossed arms. For a first mission, this wasn't so bad, although there were some unforeseen encounters, he said with everyone agreeing. Yeah, like fighting against 3 super-powered demons from this world's most dangerous guild, Oase bluntly while looking at the destruction around them caused by their fight against the enemy. In all honesty, we got lucky tonight, Momo said with her hand on her heart, remembering every close call they had. Fighting the cultists was one thing, but those demons were a whole other story. You're right about that, Momo, Midoriya said, looking back on their battles here on the island. They were different, strong, unlike anything we've faced up till now. But we still managed to get through it together as a team, Jiru said with a smile while rubbing her hurt arm. Just like real Power Rangers, Yui said with a tiny smile. Yeah, real Rangers, Ren said looking up into the night sky, thinking about everything that's happened since coming to this universe. You okay there, kid? Holotommy asked his student in concern. You seem to be spaced out. Yeah, sorry about that. It's just that I have a lot on my mind is all. Nothing too serious, Ren said, waving it before walking away from the other, which surprised them at the unexpected act. Hey, Ren, where are you going? Navi asked first him. There's something I need to do first before leaving this place, Ren yelled to them back from the distance. Navi, make sure the others get on the ship. Huh? Navi screamed in confusion at the unexpected request. Hey, wait, dude, Jiru shouted before running after him, alone with Yui and Momo right behind her. Okay, so what was that about? Oase asked his friends in confusion. No clue, Midoriya said, shrugging his shoulders at what just happened. But this is Ren we're talking about here. He's a man of mystery and unpredictability, Takoyami said with interest. We should go with him to make sure nothing happens, Kendo quickly said before she and the other rangers ran after them. We're counting on you, Navi, Midoriya yelled to the robotic bird while running off. This robotic bird watching her friends leave in an awkward silence before finally speaking up. Just like the original Pirate Legacy Rangers, always leaving me with all the work, Navi said with a sigh of nostalgia before flying off the watch over the former slaves. Meanwhile, Sayla was still lying on the ground in pain thinking about everything that transpired since coming on the island. Never before in her life has she thought things would have played out like this for her. She still couldn't even comprehend what just happened right in front of her a few moments ago. How can humans like these Power Rangers be capable of doing such things despite being inferior beings? And how can she and her comrades lose to them? How could the perfect demon tales she made be a tragic ending for the Eutherius? As she was thinking deeply about this, she noticed that the Hero Force Rangers approaching her. What do they want? Are they here to finish me off? Sayla thought while looking at the heroes with an unreadable expression, not knowing how to deal with them anymore. It doesn't matter. Even if I am killed, I'll just get revived back in Hell's Core. She closed her eyes awaiting her death at the hands of the humans. There she is, Ren said looking at Sayla, who was deep in thought. And still alive. So what are you doing with her? Yui asked him. But before their leader could answer the question, something else unexpected happened. Attention to all of the ones who go by the Power Rangers. An unknown voice announced itself into everyone's minds with their eyes widened at the voice, and couldn't help but flinch as a chill ran down their spines. The one who was affected by this is Sayla, with the demoness eyes widened in shock and fear as she knew who it was speaking in her mind. Lord Margier, Sayla mutters out with a stunned expression as she doesn't expect to hear him. Am I going crazy or did I hear someone speaking in my head? Midoriya asked his friends in disbelief. No, it's not just you. I'm pretty sure we all hear it too, Momo said with a serious expression, as she could tell the person speaking to them wasn't to be taken seriously. Plus, they know who we are as well, Kendo exclaimed in worry. But who the hell is it? Jiru asked suspiciously. Another enemy, Yui asked with a bit of concern. I'm pretty sure we're about to find out, Awase said in a slightly nervous tone. Alright you fiend, just who do you think you are? Takoyami asked the voice with a serious response. Margier could be heard chuckling through the connection, but that only served to annoy everyone there. I am the Underworld King, Margier. This name that has been announced shall trouble you for all eternity. You humans shall not live to see another day. And that goes for you as well, Sayla, Margier telepathically said to them, which shocked the Sayla. What? Sayla said in both confusion and shock. Sayla, how I pity you. You are never about to get the big picture like usual. Margier telepathically huffed through the connection. But Sir Sayla began to speak only to be stopped. Sayla, Margier intervened. Tell me, what are we? In a state that made her feel like a child to a teacher, Sayla had a twisted brow raised with the Rangers silently listening to their conversation. Our Eutherius, forged from the books of our Lord Zeref, Sayla said so obviously, yet her misunderstanding was making her look like an idiot. Margier simply took delight in that concept. And what is our goal? Margier asked her. The revival of Master End, and the destruction of all of humanity. In order to return to Zeref, Sayla replied back to him their ultimate goal. Good, but as you are aware, Margier snickered as his tone began to darken. Humans are beneath insects, but yet somehow you, Kyoka, and Deliora Jr. still manage to lose to them. You're such a waste and you know toying with humans is most unaccepting. The demon chided as his tone was filled with nothing but disappointment. I'm afraid a failure such as yours can't go unpunished, he said, making Sayla's eyes widen. Lord Margier, Sayla said in anxiety. What are you saying? You no longer have a place here in Tartaros, Margier telepathically said for everyone to hear. Sayla, goddess of the chill moon. You are hereby stripped of your title as one of the 9 demon gates and banished from Tartaros, he declared, which shocked not only Sayla but the Rangers as well. You got to be kidding me. He's kicking her out just because she lost. Holo Tommy thought in anger at how this Margier was threatening his subordinates. Sayla gashed out loud in horror as she felt her heart sink from being kicked out of her guild. But Lord Margier, why? Sayla cried out in panicking voice as she didn't understand why she was being kicked out of Tartaros. Everything I've done has always been for Tartaros and Master End. So why? Why are you doing this? The fact that you're asking me such a question just shows how much burden you are to Tartaros and Master End. The Underworld King said in a cold tone with no emotion in it. You being fond of humans is a weakness. It brings me great displeasure to see the likes of even you, Sayla, to be meddling with creatures lower than insects, which is why you are no longer a part of Tartaros. Upon hearing those words, Sayla felt a great pain in her chest. She felt like her soul was being shattered and the meaning of her life was disappearing. Then a stream of tears started to come out of the demon's eyes as she cried in despair. Margier was watching Sayla crying with a look of boredom and thought how pathetic she looked right now. In the end, Sayla, you really were just worthful. Oi, shit for brains. Ren shouted loud enough in anger to stop Margier and got his attention back on the heroes, who were furious over the convection they'd been listening to. Are you seriously kicking her out over just one failure? Huh? Margier said, raising an eyebrow at what the human said to him. Yeah, Midoriya shouted in anger as he joined in as well. So what if she failed? Sayla still gave it her all in the end. Doesn't that count for something? If you can't even see her own efforts, then you can go fuck yourself. Jiru added, which only made the Underworld King scoffed. You sound pretty petty, Mr. Underworld King, Yui said in a calm rage, as he didn't like this demon for disrespecting Sayla's hard work. Besides, you're the ones who started this fight and we just ended it. Oase yelled out, with the others agreeing to what he said. Takoyami then gestured with outstretched arms to the people behind him. We human insects are stronger than you give credit for, demon. We didn't back down from any throw our way. Takoyami exclaimed to him before Dark Shadow came out of his body to speak next. Yeah, we whipped 3 demon asses tonight and still came out on top, Mard bitch. Dark Shadow mocked. Even if you send more of your demons after us, we'll keep fighting until you are defeated. Kendo declared to him, as they can face any kind of threat. Ren then pointed to his friends, with a feral grin plastered on his face. So bring it on, Tartaros. We're gonna kick all your sorry asses and then I'm gonna find Margier, and I'm gonna tear you limb from limb. Ren declared with a serious expression. Are you humans threatening me? Margier telepathically says, not impressed, but could also feel his anger rising. Ren dropped his head down and let out a dark chuckle. He then looked back up with his cocky grin before his hands went to his sides. The cocky grin was no longer present, but the scowl he had was intense to the point it made the Underworld King a bit nervous. That's not a threat, it's a goddamn promise. Believe it. Ren responded with a burning passion, as the other Hero Force Ranger members roared in approval behind their leader with their own determined looks of confidence. They could hear the demon gritting his teeth in anger behind the telepathic line, as Ranger knew they'd gotten to the villain's nerves, which only made them feel really satisfied. Very well, humans, you win this round for today at least. But know this, Margier said as his tone grew much cooler and dark. The next time you meet a member of Tartaros, especially those of the 9 demon gates, you Rangers won't be so fortunate, as they will show you no mercy in the slightest. And then you will see firsthand how terrifying the demons from the books of Zeref can really be. He threatened the humans before ending his telepathic transmission and leaving the heroes to their thoughts. Drama Queen, Oase commented with a scoff. Look like we just made some new enemies in this world, Kendo said with a nervous laugh. Yeah, but we can worry about that later. As for right now, Ren said as he and the others' gaze went to Sayla, who was still crying and didn't pay attention to their conversation. We got something to take care of first, he stated before walking over to her. Meanwhile, as Sayla's gaze shot to the sky, the demon felt tears pour from her eyes, her teeth biting her lips so roughly she felt the salty taste of iron enter her mouth. She had lost everything she had worked so hard for. What could she do now? She was a broken woman. But Sayla was shocked even more when she felt something warm and soft get draped over her body to cover herself up after the demoness kimono was ripped up from the battle. Shifting her eyes to the right side, Sayla saw Ren without his uniform jacket on, as he was now wearing his white hoodie. The black-haired boy then leans over her to grab the demon woman's hand with one of his hands. The ranger's face creased into a gentle smile at that moment. To the beaten Etherius shone brilliantly with all the warmth and joy of the stars above. Let me carry that weight you hold in your heart, Sayla. I want to know all of your sorrows because I will take them and turn your despair into hope, Ren said with great determination as he held onto her hand tightly. Sayla's eyes widened for a brief moment in disbelief at what the human said to her before the Etherius stare turned into a hard glare while still crying out tears, with her purple eyes not wavering in the slightest as she looked back into his eyes. They are too soft, too predictable, too human. But for some strange reason, she didn't hate it. And his hand felt comforting, warm, and bright. The complete opposite of any of the demons at Tartaros. Perhaps the problem was that she wasn't actually torturing him, simply staring at him. Would torturing this human make her think differently about these strange feelings? Then quick as lightning, Sayla used the remaining strength she had left to shoot her free hand out, and she grasped Ren around his neck, with her grip tightening to strangle the human to death, despite her arms being broken. You damn human, this is your fault. Because of you, I've been stripped of everything, including my pride as an Etherius, Sayla yelled out in rage, while her grip tightened on his neck. Your deaths is the only thing that can redeem my honor as a 9-demon gate, she said with more tears running down her face. The other rangers saw this and rushed over to save their leader, but Ren raised a hand to stop his teammates from interfering while the smile on his face never vanished as he kept looking at the Etherius. Will killing me really make you feel better? Ren simply asked her, as the boy's dark gray eyes had no signs of hatred in them. Besides, honor doesn't come from your power. It comes from within and doing what is right by you. You should have realized, instead of working for Zeref who doesn't care about you, and especially that Margir guy, since he kicked you out over just one loss, he said, which only made the demoness snarled at him. You'll pay for what they've done to me, human, Sayla growled, as her grip got tighter. The ranger didn't so much as struggle from the lack of air, but was still smiling at the woman with Sayla strangling Ren. Meanwhile, as Sayla was strangling the ranger, she felt nothing happened. There was no thrill, no excitement, no jubilation at having this pathetic creature at her mercy, more like he wasn't trying to fight back. There was no pleasure to be found in this treatment. The story was boring, bland, and distasteful. Soon Sayla's hand gripe loosened, giving Ren the ability to breathe again as the purple teary-eyed Etherius once again stared up at the human boy. The other Hero Force Rangers were watching this in anxiety, wondering what she would do next to their friend. But Sayla simply stared at Ren before finally releasing her grip around his neck and was still staring at him while sobbing. Most would point out that Sayla strangling him should have tipped the boy off, but Ren had an inkling that the demoness hadn't been trying to kill him. Rather, she was trying to test something. But what? I don't understand, Sayla softly said with a little weeping, while still staring at the human boy. I don't understand. Don't understand what? Ren asked slowly, not wanting to provoke the volatile woman. You are human, Sayla snarled, as her teary eyes narrowed in frustration at the hero. You are weak, fragile, you break and die so easily. Still manage to put up a fight against you and the other 2 demons. Ren bluntly replied back. Due to numbers, Sayla mumbled offhandedly. Numbers and overconfidence on our part. But you are still human. I am one of the most powerful Etherius and you are human. So how can I still lose to you? She cried out even more as her eyes flashed red. Ren simply stared back, seeing the turmoil swirling in the demoness's purple gaze as he wondered how to help the calm and stoic female demon. Finally, the female Etherius huffed and turned on her face away from the hero, while coming to sob in despair at her tragic fall from grace to this weak mess. Sayla had received no answers and the same questions were swirling around in her mind in conjunction with her never seeing Mistress Kyoka again. Why? Sayla asked, still sobbing. Why are you helping me? I tried to destroy you and your friends, yet you saved my life, she said looking up at him. Because it's my job as a Power Ranger, Ren simply said without hesitation, while still holding her hand. We're taught to help people, and you don't deserve to go out like this, he said, flashing a smile at her. Sayla considered his answer before tightening her grip on his hand. You weak, pathetic, stupid human, the demoness said while getting up slowly with his help before pulling away briefly. The Etherius felt a hiccup come over her due to her tears, her heart beating so rapidly she felt like she could faint. I hate you, 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 and her words died in her throat when Ren grabbed her hand again. I don't want you to be alone after losing the only place you called home, Ren said with his usual grin. Once we're back on the mainland, you can figure out what to do with your life next now that you're free. Sayla lets out another frustrating roar while looking at the Rangers with a different expression. Do you, idiot, what? Why are why you hick as such a jerk? You She sobbed with a mixture of happiness and sorrow now, her heart feeling lighter, happier, and even more open as she hugged him suddenly. See, you ain't some mindless monster who is only good for creating stories with horrible endings, but a person who can also care for other living beings and make happy ending stories, Ren said with a wide smile while hugging her back to embrace all her feelings. Just who in the world are you? Sayla said, crying in his chest. Ren Amamiya, your hero, Ren said with confidence. Holotomi, Yui, Jiru, Midoriya, Kendo, Momo, Oase, and Takoyami gave a sudden start at that, with their eyes wide as they watched Ren hug the crying demon woman openly, as his words made Sayla cry even harder, her fists clenching his shirt tightly as she soaked him with tears of joy. They were completely shocked into silence, as the demoness who tried to kill them not too long ago was crying and beating their leader's chest weakly, her words coming out softly in a manner that one would best describe as being tsundere-like, tough, and harsh on the outside yet soft and cute on the inside. Why you stupid human? Why you best take our responsibility for this, Sayla said to him in a cute crying manner. A single common thought was shared upon the other Rangers' deadpan faces as a line of thought crossed their minds. It was a cute sight. What in the heck are we looking at right now? Kendo asked in a confused manner. I say that our fearless leader managed to change the demon's black heart, Takoyami said with a proud grin. That's Ren for you, Holo Tommy said with a light chuckle, while also shaking his head in amusement. Always doing the impossible, no matter how ridiculous it may be. Well, even though she's our enemy, I'm happy he helped her regain a bit of her hope, Midoriya said with a smile, as he would have done the same thing in Ren's position. Yui unconscious placed her hand on her chest and had a look of discomfort on her face, as she felt a small pain in it to see her love interest hugging that demon woman. Ren then picked Sayla up in his arms bridge style with the UA uniform jacket covering her body, before turning to his friends and walking through them. Okay, we're done here, Ren said with Sayla still quietly crying in his chest. Let's go home, Rangers. He then walked past them while heading back to the Legacy Galleon, with the others following behind him. Finally, Oe said as he was beyond tired. Despite everything that's happened on this island, it was actually kind of fun to explore a new world, Midoriya said while next to Takoyami. Indeed, Takoyami said with a nod. This truly was a wonderful experience that not many have the chance to do. Yeah, not to mention we made some new enemies and assess we need to kick later, Dark Shadow commented to his partner. As everyone was walking back to the ship, the other girls noticed that Yui hadn't moved from where she was and stopped to see if the quiet girl was okay. Yui? Jiru asked with her and the other two girls walking back to her. What's the matter? I'm fine. It's just that, Yui said, removing her hand from her heart, and had a little serious expression on her face. Just what? Momo said with a raised brow, as she didn't know where her friend was going with this. I'm going to tell Ren how I feel about him, Yui said out loud, which took the three girls by surprise. Huh? The three girls cried out in surprise. Whoa. Are you serious right now, Yui? Kendo said with a light blush on her face. Yeah, I am, Yui said bluntly with a nod. And I think you guys should do the same thing too. It's time we put the plan we've been talking about into motion, she stated, which made the girls blush even harder in embarrassment at the thought. Huh? The three girls cried out even longer in surprise at their friend's request. Legacy Galleon night. Inside one of the rooms on the ship, Midoriya was laying down on the bed groaning in pain over his injuries and sore muscles, as he left like complete crap. He hasn't felt this bad since his training with All Might in controlling One for All. The green-haired boy and his friends were successful in their first mission as Rangers by putting an end to a dangerous cult, defeating two superpowered demons, reuniting Kagura and Simon together, and reusing all the slaves. All things considered, Midoriya was feeling pretty good right now, as he was able to save people from trouble with a smile on his face like his idol All Might. But despite the pain was in, Midoriya's mind was focused on something else at the moment, as he was thinking about his one-sided conversation with the past One for All users before him and the new power he got from Daigoro Banjo. So in the addict of One for All and Black Whip, I have 5 more quirks to awaken to, Midoriya thought, bringing up his right arm in the air to look at and remembering how he got his new quirk. I'm still inexperienced when it comes to using One for All, and having 6 more quirks later on will make things much more difficult for me. Everyone else has already had a decade's head start of me, and I have to work 10 times harder if I want to keep up with them, he thought before clenching his right fist with a determined look on his face as he brought his arm back down. Midoriya then felt himself go still as he picks up the sound of a doorknob handle moving. He slowly turned his gaze up to see orange-haired side ponytailed teammate, who slowly opened the room door with a half-nervous look on her face. Kendo, Midoriya spoke in confusion as he did not expect to see her. Hey, Midoriya, Kendo said shortly, but there was a faint blush in her cheeks, almost invisible. Well, almost is the keyword. Can we talk for a bit? Sure. I don't really mean. Midoriya stirred a bit as he was alone with a girl. Kendo quietly nodded before coming into the room and closing the door behind herself as she walked over to Midoriya's side and sat on the edge of his bed. There was an awkward silence for the past 2 minutes, as either teen was too nervous to speak to the other, as this was the first alone time they had with one another without their teammates around. How are you feeling? Kendo asked, breaking the silence. Midoriya's response was a quiet gulp, followed by some incoherent babbling. Hopefully, he got over his nervousness before it drove him to quit. Very sore all over my body, but I'll live, Midoriya said to her with a weak groan. Over his injured body. How about you? The same here. It felt like I was just training for hours without rest, Kendo said with a smile while looking down at him. Who would have thought our first mission as Rangers would end up like this? Yeah, I know. It was really unexpected, to say the least, Midoriya said, thinking about everything they just went through. But we managed to save all those people and stop 2 really powerful villains by working together as a team. I feel the exact same way. which is one of the reasons I've joined UA, Kendo said and gave him a look that made his heart jump and blood rush to his cheeks. Midoriya's entire body suddenly felt hot and not even the cool night air could quench it. You really are an amazing person, Midoriya, Kendo complimented him. Despite everything you've been through your entire life, you never let it stop you from following your dream. That's one of the things I like about you, she said with a light blush on her cheek and a warm smile. You really mean that? I don't think it is something to praise me for. I was doing what I could to keep my dream of being a hero alive, Midoriya stuttered, his cheeks burning even further out of embarrassment. What I mean is thanks for believing in me, Kendo. You don't know how much hearing that makes me happy, he said with his usual smile. Kendo blushed even more, before moving her hand onto his. You can call me Itsuka from time to time, you know, she said to him. Oh, okay, Itsuka, Midoriya said with an embarrassed tone, his face going red. Then I guess you CC can call me by my first name as well. Also, there's something I've been meaning to tell you for a while now, Kendo said in a nervous, hesitant voice, while also having a hard time looking at him. What is it? Midoriya asked in curiosity while sitting up from the bed. Kendo's heart skipped several beats as her chest became heavier, unable to stop smiling giddily. She then looked up to Midoriya, stared straight into his eyes, and placed a hand on the boy's cheek, which was warm to the touch. Midoriya slightly jumped a bit from the strange move, but didn't pull away as he saw a determined look in the girl's eyes and wanted to hear what she had to say. 1,000 words Kendo could say to tell him how she felt, and only a few of them meant anything. Midoriya, I'm in love with you, Kendo said as she finally confessed her feelings to him. But before Midoriya could respond or react to the confession, Kendo's head shot forward to catch Midoriya's lips as his eyes shot wide open in shock from the unexpected confession and kiss. Shocked and bewildered at the behavior of his teammate, Midoriya's emotions were running all over the place as no one had ever loved him like this before, as most girls his age would find him creepy or pathetic due to his quirklessness. But not Kendo, as she was different compared to most of the girls he met before coming to UA. She was nice and kind to him, with the girl being the first person to have a crush on him. Soon Midoriya's eyes closed and kissed her back without hesitation. Her kiss was soft and warm from the heat of her cheeks, and he was all the same. They expected the kiss to be short and they would part soon after, but they held on, only taking a second to come up for breath. It was like the world melted around them into a pool of bliss and happiness. Every cell in her body wanted to be close to his. So much had led up to this moment, and neither of them could let it end so easily as they held each other closer, happier than either of them had ever been. Finally, the kiss parted, and they rested their foreheads upon one another, smiling from the pure rush of emotion and having pink cheeks. So does that mean you're okay with dating someone like me? Midoriya asked shakily, as this was a new feeling for him. Izuku, I know you didn't have a lot of people liking you back then due to being quirkless, but I don't care about any of that stupid nonsense, Kendo said with a gentle smile at him. I obviously like you for who you are and nothing else. I fell for you, not because of your ranger powers or having All Might's quirk, but because of the type of person you are and the lengths you would go in order to help a life, she said before giving him a quick peck on the cheek. So don't ever think you don't deserve to be with someone, because you deserve it more than anyone because of the things you've been through. Midoriya quietly listened to her before nodding back slowly and saying something to her. Okay, I'll go out with you, Midoriya said without hesitation, making Kendo smile happily before his bravado abandoned him, replaced by his usual timidity. That is I if you are really want to. Kendo giggled at that and hugged him closely, before leaning up to kiss him on the lips while doing tongue this time for a full minute, and then breaking apart. Nothing would make me happier than to be with you, Kendo said to him, which made the boy smile back at her. Then I'll do my best to make you happy, Itsuka, Midoriya said to her, as he was the one to kiss her back this time, with her accepting it before breaking apart once more. So out of curiosity, when did you start to like me? Since the entrance exam, Kendo simply said without hesitation, while putting her face on his chest. The way you fought really made my heart pound like a drum. That far, Midoriya said to himself in wonder while holding her closely in his arms. I guess I was lucky enough to meet you then. He now had a soft smile on his face. And I'm not the only one, Kendo said, looking up at him with a sly grin. Some of the other girls from both classes also have a thing for you as well, she informed, making the boy blink multiple times with widened eyes. What? Midoriya screamed out like a little girl, which only made Kendo giggle at his cute reaction to the news. Yep, and we come to an agreement to share you, if interested in dating all of us, Kendo confessed to her new boyfriend. What? Midoriya screamed out louder before fainting on the bed due to the shock, as Kendo laughed even harder and lay down next to him. Hope you can satisfy all of us girls, Midoriya. Kendo said with a gentle smile and eyes closed while wrapping her arms around her man's unconscious body in happiness. In another room on the ship, Ren was currently resting on the bed as he immediately fell asleep due to the extreme fatigue he was feeling after the battle was over. The leader of the Hero Force Rangers was in deep sleep as he was dreaming of something unbelievable that it could possibly affect him and his team in the future. Unknown. Ren was now walking in an endless space of network pure energy that almost resembles lines of light that go on forever. The ranger knew actually where he was and was wondering how he ended up in the Morphin Grid of all places. He remembered falling asleep on one of the Legacy Galleon beds, and now he was just walking in this endless space of energy not knowing what to do next. As Ren continued to wander around the multiversal energy field, he stopped in place to let out a small gasp of shock at what was just in front of him now. 6 slightly large beings dressed in armor, each having their own respective color to tell who they are. These ageless powerful beings are the Morphin Masters, an ancient group of beings that devoted themselves to studying the Morphin Grid's singular nature, its existence across all universes as a multiversal constant, and the creators of the Power Rangers. Ren stared at the red, blue, green, pink, black, and gold Morphin Masters in awe with a godsmack on his face, as he didn't expect to see them in person. As he was about to say something to them, all the Morphin Masters raised their staffs up and then fired multiple beams of light in their respective colors at the air, colliding together to form a multicolored sphere the size of a person. Ren silently watched the Morphin Masters performing their work and wondered what they were doing, before noticing his master morpher starting to glow bright out of nowhere. The boy immediately brought his left arm up slightly closer to his face to inspect what was happening, as he glowed dead down to reveal something that shocked him unexpectedly. It was a morpher that he didn't recognize at all, and unlike anything the hero had seen before either. The device looked like the power morpher as it was attached to the ranger's wrist, but it was gold and easily twice as bulky as a normal morpher, if not more. It was solid gold, engraved with strange symbols on it, and had the ranger's Thunderbolt logo on the center of the device. Then, before Ren could process this new morpher on his wrist, the Morphin Masters finished firing their beams at the multicolored sphere twice the size of a person, before the sphere exploded in a burst of energy that made Ren cover his eyes from the bright light washing over him. Ren narrowed his eyes open slightly to get a better look at what was in front of him, to only see a shadowy armored figure, surrounded by a multicolor aura and releasing a tone of grid energy until anything he's felt before. Before he could get a better look at the armored figure, the boy was now being engulfed by a blinding light washing over him that turned everything around the ranger white. Legacy Galleon Knight. Ren slowly began to open his eyes slightly, as he could still feel his aching muscle, which made it harder for him to move around like he normally does. But that was the least of his concerns, as the boy remembered the strange dream he just had, and pictured the armored figure that the Morphin Masters created before him. What was that all about? Was it a dream or another vision of the future? Ren thought to himself as he was thinking about what he just saw. And that strange armor figure I saw the Morphin Masters create, I've never seen that before. Was that a new ranger form or an upcoming ranger team? While the black-haired boy was trying to figure out what that dream was, Ren's brain started to notice he was lying on something soft and comfortable. "Oh good, you're awake now," a female voice from above him said in a gentle tone, with a soft hand rubbing on his forehead. Ren's eyes slowly readjusted themselves before the face of a blushing but nervous Momo appeared above his sight. The boy realized that he was resting on Momo's lap, who had used her quirk to create a more comfortable pillow than the one he was using to rest on, and was running her fingers through his hair. "Momo," Ren said in a stunned manner while looking up at her. Then Ren felt a tag on his right sleeve, making him turn to see both Jiru and Yui sitting on chairs by his right side with similar expressions to the one Momo has right now. Jiru's face was a slightly red like beef as her eyes were somewhat focused on the floor, and Yui had on her usual blank expression that showed little to no emotions whatsoever, but it didn't hide the pink blush marks on her cheeks. "Yui, Jiru," Ren said to the both of them. "Hey," Jiru said in a hesitant tone, with her looking up at him now. Yui said softly with a nod. The boy also noticed the intense looks on all of their faces and wondered what this could be about. "So what's this about?" Ren asked curiously while sitting up from his friend's lap. "Shouldn't you girls be resting after that huge battle we just had?" "We were planning to do that, but rather there's something important we need to say to you first," Jiru stated with a serious tone. "All of you," Ren relayed with a blink. "Okay, so what is it you want to talk about?" This is kind of hard to say. What we want to say is," Momo admitted with a flush, trying to spit it out. "We all have a crush on you and want to date you," Yui blurted out without hesitation. "What she said?" Jiru said with an intense blush. Ren immediately paused and blinked as he proceeded with what he just heard from the 3 girls. "Excuse me, but can you all repeat that?" Ren asked in a slightly stunned tone, as he wanted to make sure he heard that right. Each of the girls gestures to one another before lining up in front of him. "We like you, Ren Amamiya. Please go out with us," the three girls said at the same time. Ren just stood there with widened eyes and a blush on his face at the multiple love confesses, as he took a moment to process this unexpected turn of events with his eyes traveling to the floor. Well, I didn't see that coming," Ren said quietly, as the girls waited in anticipation for his response to their love confession. "But I've always had a feeling that you might have liked me," he stated, making their eyes widen from what he said. Why you knew we had feelings for you?" Momo was the one to ask in a stuttered voice. "Not necessarily," Ren said, shaking his head. "I just had a sneaking suspicion with how you girls behave around me." He started, making them look at him with quiet expressions. "What? You think I'm one of that anime protagonists who is too dense to realize when a girl has feelings for him?" he asked with a raised eyebrow. "Well, no, not really," Jiru said, as she and the other two girls were unable to respond to the question. Ren only just sighed to himself while scratching his head in embarrassment before asking something else to them. "So when did you all start to like me?" Ren asked them, with Yui being the first to answer. "I started liking you back during our time in middle school," Yui said to him with a blank expression. "You were the first person to truly understand me, and after spending time with you I started to see you as more than just a friend," she admitted with a blush forming across her face. "I fell for you when you helped me realize my dream of being both a hero and a musician," Jiru said to him while twiddling one of her jacks and avoiding making eye contact with him. "For a long time, I was struggling to make a decision on which of the two things I wanted to do, but thanks to you I was about to realize that I didn't need to choose one over the other," she said, looking up at him with a generous smile. "For me, it was when I showed your fight against the sludge villain," Momo said, placing a hand on her chest. "At first I was only interested in how a quirkless person like yourself managed to do so much without a quirk. But after getting to know you and seeing the type of person you are behind the helmet, I started to admire you to the point I've developed feelings for you," she said with a growing blush on her face. "So after we realized that we all had feelings for you, we girls all come together and decide on an agreement," Yui said to him. "What sort of agreement?" Ren asked nervously. "Is that we would all share you together so that no one would feel left out or have their feelings hurt over a rejection," Jiru said, finishing with her statement. Yui and Momo nodded in agreement before closing in on Ren, each of them finding a part of their love interest to hug to convey their feelings. Despite the pain they were all feeling, they all landed together on the bed, with Yui holding onto his chest, Jiru holding his right arm, and Momo holding his left arm. Ren didn't have much of a say as it was unexpected, and he was hurt to even argue, as he could feel his heart beating faster from the close physical contact he was having with them. "In the end, it may be the best solution for us all," Momo hypothesized while snuggling him closer. "I've seen friendships shattered because said friends liked one person, and I would very much like to keep the friendship we share now." It was true, as the heir to the Yaoyorozu family, she had seen boys who were best friends fight over each other for her attention back in middle school, some leading to disastrous results. It didn't help that her beauty and wealth factored heavily into those. Even couples broke up when the girl became jealous her boyfriend kept staring at Momo. "So we're in agreement then?" Jiru asked everyone while enjoying the warmth of his body. "It's not what I expected, but if I have to share Ren, then I don't mind if it's with you girls." "Same here," Yui said, shaving her face deep within his chest. "Are you girls sure about this?" Ren asked in confusion and worry, before adjusting himself up with the girls doing the same. "It's not that I'm willing to go through with this, but why so hesitation about this?" Yui asked before lifting up her head with a smirk. "Three beautiful babes are all asking you out, and you don't want to accept." "Indeed, it would break our hearts," Momo said with her own teasing tone. "You don't want to do that, do you?" Jiru asked with a shy smile. "If you're all willing to do this, then so am I," Ren said with a growing smile as he closed his eyes. "But I'm new to this whole dating, so I won't be any good at it," he confessed, making them giggle a bit. "So are we. But we'll learn as we go," Momo said with a smile as she and the others let go of them. "And you don't need to try and impress us. Just continue to be yourself," Jiru said to him with her own smile. Yui said with a nod. "Now give us a kiss to seal the deal on our newfound relationship," she demanded to him. "A kiss, you say?" Ren said, reopening his eyes to see the embarrassing, nervous looks on Momo and Jiru's faces, with Yui having an unreadable expression. "So which one of you wants to go first?" Yui suddenly reached out her hands and cupped Ren's cheeks together to hold him in place, staring up at him with those rich blue eyes that Ren suddenly couldn't look away from. She leaned in, pressing her forehead against his as he leaned down to her height, and Ren immediately stood in place waiting to see what would happen next. "I want to be the first," Yui whispered while pressing herself up against him. So let me have this, you handsome bastard. With that said, she pressed her lips against his, as Ren's eyes blew open in surprise and the sound of fireworks going off in his mind. Yui's lips were very soft, very warm, very inviting. Ren unconsciously moved his lips against hers. She opened her mouth to push her tongue against his lips, asking to be let in. Ren couldn't think properly, but he still opened his mouth, letting her in to explore. Yui's hands began exploring as well, rubbing his stomach and back, feeling up his muscles. It was probably because of how good her lips and tongue felt and how she was groping him, because Ren's surprise faded, and he closed his eyes, beginning to kiss the black-haired girl back. His hands raised to touch her back, rubbing them, but Yui detached her hands to grab his own, and brought them down towards her ass, encouraging him to grab each cheek. Ren did, causing Yui to shudder into the kiss, grabbing him so that they were pressed against each other, grunting into each other's mouths as they made out. While this was happening, Jiru and Momo watched all of this with godsmack expressions and crimson faces, as they couldn't take their eyes off of their teammates' intense making out with one another. Oh, my, Momo thought with her hand covering her mouth at the sight before her. Goddamn, Yui, Jiru thought with an earphone jack wrapping around her face, as she didn't think her friend was so bold. Both girls' heart rates were beating interestingly fast, as they were getting aroused by watching this and wishing it was them in the quiet girl's place. Finally, Ren and Yui disconnected, panting slightly as a trail of saliva broke between them, and her eyes bored into his as she stepped back, Ren's hands falling away as he stared at her with a smile. You don't know how long I wanted to do that, Yui said with a gentle smile, as her expression was a happy love-struck girl. But I guess the wait was differently worth it in the end. Yeah, it was, Ren said as he enjoyed kissing his new girlfriend. But I had no idea you were such a good kisser. There's a lot more than where that came from, Yui promised to him. Just ask, and I'll rock your brains out, she said, making him chuckle a bit from her remark. Let's not get that far ahead just yet, okay, Ren said to the black-haired girl, before turning his gaze to Momo and Jiru, who was quiet this whole time. So which one of you is next? He asked, snapping them back to reality. I guess it's my turn now, Jiru said with a hesitant voice, as her body was shaking nervously when she got in front of Ren. You don't have to force yourself to do this if you're not comfortable about it yet, Jiru, Ren said to the girl in concern as he noticed her body tumbling. No, I want to do this, Jiru shouted while her face was blushing red and gazing down onto his shirt. I'm just not used to this kind of thing, so go on ahead, she whispered quietly as she gripped his shirt tightly. With the seal of approval, Ren lifted Jiru's chin up to his face and leaned forward to press his lips against hers. Jiru still couldn't believe what just happened, she getting kissed by Ren. Her mind was so frazzled she didn't notice that she was kissing him back slowly, with Ren deciding to explore the inside of her mouth, and she lost all strength to try to stop him. He continued to ravish her mouth for what seemed to be an eternity. Somewhere during the exchange he had wrapped his arms around her shoulders to keep herself upright. At this point, Jiru's instinct completely took over and her mind was on autopilot and let him have his way with her mouth, which seemed to egg him on more. After releasing their lips and letting go of one another, the music girl was in a complete daze. Her head was fuzzy, her ears were numb, and she seemed hypersensitive to everything that Ren had done to her. God, she wasn't even sure if she wanted to stop him, and she was even less sure that she could. All she knew was that she was getting turned on by everything he was doing. Was that too much for you? Ren asked, hoping he didn't take it too far, only to get a head shake from her. No, it was amazing, Jiru said with a growing smile and blush on her face, as she clearly enjoyed it. You really know how to please a girl. Well, I try my best, Ren said to her with a nodding grin. Now I believe you're last, Momo immediately grabbed him before he could finish his sentence and pursed her lips before pulling him towards her for a deep, passionate kiss. It was a raw, inexperienced kind of kiss that was perhaps just a bit too forceful considering her own physical strength. Ren is lucky his jacket didn't rip apart, but the rudeness didn't stop him from kissing back at her. The boy took one of his hands and brought it up to her head, caressing her pitch-black smooth hair. He ran his hands through it and took note of the fact it felt like silk running through his fingers. The petting of her hair seemed to elicit a positive response from the girl as she slightly opened her mouth as he continued his ministrations. Seeing his chance, Ren decided to take things a step further and began using his tongue to play with Momo's own. Their eyelids were completely shut as they both took in the euphoric feeling of their mouth muscles battling. It seemed Ren's experience with the other two kisses seemed to kick in as Momo turned to putty in his hands and she let him take full control of her mouth. Momo seemed to respond well to this as she wrapped her hands in his hair or grabbed at him as if her life depended on it. Making sure she was now fully comfortable with that, he decided on his next course of action. Finally, after what had to have been a solid 3 minutes of heated kissing, the two UA students finally broke apart, both panting and huffing loudly with their faces flushed red from the experience, one more so than the other. Speaking of which, the creation woman was still in a daze from what had just happened. Honestly, Momo then buried her face in her hands. Her ears were beet red and even now was still trying to wrap her head around the new experience. It was embarrassing to admit, but she had grown up reading romance novels that had some rather explicit scenes within them. So she was no stranger to the naughtier sides of people and their urges. And to be honest, being kissed by someone as chivalrous as Ren in front of Yui and Jiru watching the scene, partners in their 4-way relationship, it was kind of hot. Man, you're just as good at kissing as Yui, Ren said with a teasing smirk. You're kind of freak for a rich girl. Please don't say stuff like that out loud. This is already embarrassing enough as is without you teasing me, Momo said with her face still looking away at what she had done. But you enjoy know the least, Yui said, getting a weak nod from her. So don't feel embarrassed about it, because they're going to be more intimate play in the future, she said, making her blush even harder. I suppose you're right, Momo nervously said before calming down a bit and looking back at her boyfriend. In any case, this is 3 down and only 2 more to go for you. What do you mean by that? Ren asked with a raised brow. She's talking about Mina and Setsuna, Jiru said to him about the other 2 who liked him. Mina and Setsuna. Seriously? Ren asked with a bit of a surprised expression. Oh, yeah. In fact, they're the ones who come up with the whole sharing you idea in the first place, Jiru said to him with a nod. It was a weird suggestion at first, but after they made a very convincing argument about fighting over you for our affection would be a waste of time and energy, and it would be easier for all of us dating you, Momo said, remembering the whole conversation about how Class 1A and 1B girls had a crush on Midoriya and Ren. Yui said to him with a nod. Well, if that's the case then I'll talk to them both when I get the chance, Ren said to them before. Holo Tommy contacted all the rangers on their morphers. Attention, rangers. We just arrived back in Harjan and will be docking the ship soon. Meet with everyone else in the main room, Holo Tommy informed them before ending the transmission. Looks like it's almost over, Jiru said with a sigh of relief. Come on, girls. Once we land back in Harjan, we need to get these people to the hospital, and then we're leaving this world, Ren said to them, getting a nod from his girlfriends. Upon hearing that, the 4 of them got up from where they were sitting and adjusted themselves up, then left the room together before quickly kissing each other again. In another room on the ship, the former 9 Demon Gate of Tartaros was sitting in a corner on the floor and left alone with nothing but her thoughts on how things could have ended up like this for her. Why did things just suddenly stop making sense? Sayla tried to kill these Power Rangers but ended up being recused by the same humans, especially their leader. He helped Sayla at her lowest point and gave the demoness a new reason to live. She could tell just from looking at him, listening to him, that he was generally helping her, which no damn sense whatsoever to even comprehend. No, wait, this didn't make any sense. Why would he save her? After what she had just done, why would he then do this for her? She didn't understand this at all. She didn't deserve to be saved. She deserved to be left on the island to succumb to her injuries. It was all that she deserved. So why would he bring her with them, when they had that battle not too long ago? No matter how much Sayla thought about it, it didn't make a lick of sense for her to understand. No sane person would even think about saving their enemy without some ulterior motive. But yet, that wasn't the case here. He just helped her because she looked like someone who needed to be saved from her own despair. Upon seeing the strange human male's kindness, Sayla just couldn't get him out of her mind. Why did she feel this around him now? Why did she feel the urge to be near him rather than kill him like before? Why was she growing more and more curious about him? Renamamiya, Sayla thought to herself with a look of curiosity. Just what sort of human are you? Before she could think of anything else, the ship made a small tremor that was a sign it had landed on solid ground or water, since the demon woman didn't know. To see what was happening outside, Sayla used the bit of the strength she had left to lift her injured self up from the floor and moved over to a nearby window to see that the ship had arrived in some kind of port town. Everyone, we have arrived in the port of Harjan. Sayla heard the voice of Momo, who was speaking to everyone on the ship as she listened into it. Let us now exit the ship in an orderly fashion and get you all some proper medical attention at the hospital. Those of you who can move on their own just fine. Help carry the ones who can't. She heard the voice of Midoriya this time. Come on, let's move it, people. She now heard Ren's voice this time. The faster we get this over with, the faster our job will be done here. Right? Everyone person on the shouted out loud through them. Sayla silently listened to everyone's footsteps moving and could tell they were leaving the ship into the town, and couldn't help to think about what to do now. What am I supposed to do now without Tartaros in my life? Sayla whispered sadly as she was completely lost. Once we're back on the mainland, you can figure out what to do with your life next now that you're free. She remembered the words he said to her. At that moment, Sayla's eyes slightly widened in realization and knew what she wanted to do before immediately leaving the room of the ship to go down her own path. Harjan Town night. In front of the town's hospital, the Hero Force Rangers, Urza, Rob, Kagura, and Simon, were outside talking to each other with the young heroes saying their goodbyes. After leaving the ship, the Rangers had the former slaves taken to the hospital to receive medical attention after the living nightmare those cultists put them through. They also managed to inform the town's proper authorities about everything and made sure the former slaves were getting the best treatment they could. With everything said and done, the Legacy Galleon returned back to the grid and the Rangers were about to leave this world. So you're already leaving? Kagura said in a sad tone. Yeah, we have to, Jiru said to her with a small smile. Will we ever see you again? Kagura asked in a hopeful tone. Who knows, but if there's trouble then we're there to help you out again, Ren said, giving her a smile. That made the girl blush. But does it have to be right now? Urza said in the same tone as Kagura, as she didn't want them to go just yet. You still haven't said goodbye to everyone else. They're getting treated by the doctors and we don't want to interpret them, Midoriya said with a nervous grin. Look, Urza, it's better this way. Besides, we have to get back home soon anyway, Yui said to her. Urza was about to say something until Simon placed a hand on her shoulder to stop her from speaking with the red-haired girl looking at him. Don't, Urza. They have to go, Simon said, shaking his head at her. He's right, Urza. They've already done more than enough for us and we shouldn't keep up more of their time, Rob said to her before looking at the hero. But before you go, I would like to give you all this as thanks for saving us from those cultists and demons. He then pulled out a pair of glasses from his pockets. What are those? They look like regular glasses, Kendo commented as she and the others looked at the glasses in confusion. These are far from ordinary glasses, Rangers. They are magical glasses called the Gale Force reading glasses. With them you'll be able to read at an extreme speed than what it takes to read. The one I have is actually of the highest quality and can read 64 times faster. It was the present of a friend and had them on me for quite a while, Rob explained as the heroes were impressed by the magic item's capabilities. Sounds useful, Holo Tommy thought in acknowledgement. I wonder if we can use our magic to replicate this to have more magical glasses. Really? That's amazing, Midoriya said while taking the magic item from the old man. I know it isn't much to repay you after everything you kids went through to save us, Rob said as he wished he could have offered something much better to them. Again, you have our thanks, Power Rangers. We are externally in your debt. There's no need for any of that, okay? These magical glasses are more than enough of a gift. We were just doing our jobs as heroes, Momo said to the man with a small blush on her cheeks. But you should all be careful with Zeref demons running around. Takoyami warned them about Tartaros. We will, and I'll be sure to inform the master of my guild about this matter, Rob said back to them with seriousness. You're a part of the Wizards Guild, old man, Ren said as he and the others were quite curious to know. Oh, yes, I was planning to return back there and let everyone know that I'm okay, Rob said with a smile as he couldn't wait to see his old friends again. Yeah, an old man Rob was planning on taking me there to see it, Urza said with excitement in her voice, making the older kids chuckle at the little girl. Really now, Kendo said before looking at the old man. So what's the name of your guild? Its name is Fairy Tale. You all should come and play it a visit in the future, Rob said to them. That's an interesting name for a guild, Holo Tommy thought as he liked the name. Cool name for the guild. It makes it sound mysterious, Voice complimented him. Well, then I think it's time to head home, guys, Ren said to everyone, getting a nod from them before opening an interdimensional portal back to their universe. Later, guys, and enjoy your new freedom. He said goodbye to them. Bye, Power Rangers. Urza and the others waved them off. One day, I'll be as strong as you guys and repay you for all that you've done for us, he promised with a bright smile. Each of them gave their own goodbye to them and then went straight into the portal as they disappeared from their sight. Then out of nowhere, Sailor ran straight through the patrol before it closed up behind her. This made Urza, Rob, Kagura, and Simon look there in confusion at the demon going through that portal. I hope that doesn't be a problem for them, Rob said in a low tone at what he had just seen. Unknown to the Rangers, a few days after the Tower of Heaven incident, rumors about the Hero Force Rangers' actions had begun to spread all across the kingdom of Fior and a new legend was born. Elsewhere in a back alley, Jello, who just recently regained consciousness and escaped the hospital, inhaled sharply, clutching his chest as he leaned against the wall. The blue-haired was gritting his teeth in a mix of anger and frustration over his humiliating defeat against the Power Rangers and his plan to use the Tower of Heaven's R system to revive Zeref. God damn, those fucking rangers. Jello angrily punched the wall next to himself as he was panting heavily due to his injuries. This isn't over just yet. I will complete the R system and revive Zeref back into the world. After that, I'll personally kill all of those rangers one by one until they're begging for death, he declared with a burning rage of hatred and a psychotic expression on his face. Well, if it's revenge you've wanted, then I can help you in that regard. A voice made Jello turn his body around to see Ultir walking up to him without a care and having a grin on her confided face. Jello looked at the purple-haired girl holding a crystal ball in a hand with suspicion before saying something to her. And who the hell are you? Jello demanded darkly with narrow eyes. Just someone else who also seeks the revival of Lord Zeref, Ultir said with an evil grin on her face before saying more. And if you join forces with my master, then I guarantee you'll revenge on the Power Rangers, she offered the boy, which made his eyes widen a bit before growing a twisted smile on his face. Go on, you have my attention, Jello said with interest. My Hero Academia universe, high school gym gamma night. He's late, Aizawa said with a very irritated tone, as this was killing his sleeping time. Yuri's quirk tests ended about an hour ago, and now Aizawa, Toshinori, Nezu, Yuri, Cruz, Smash, and Jax were all together in the gymnasium waiting for Ren to show up to pick up his sister. But he hasn't shown up at all, and it was starting to make them worry. Now Aizawa, calm down, I know young Amamiya is running a little late, but there's no need to get upset, Toshinori said, trying to calm Eraser head down. Her testing ended an hour ago and he isn't even answering your phone calls. So I have every reason to be upset given how much of a trouble magnet the problem child is, Aizawa said with a stern tone. Come on Aizawa, you actually think young Amamiya is out there fighting against villains? Toshinori asked in a skeptical tone. In any case, we should wait a little bit longer because making any unnecessary decision just yet, Nezu said to them, as he had a few of his newest staff members looking for his student. This is a bit concerning. It's not like him to be late like this, Smash said with a bit of concern in his voice. You don't think something bad happened to Ren? Yuri said as she began to tear up at why Ren was taking so long to come and get her. Of course not, Yuri, Jax said, trying to cheer up the depressed girl. Your brother is the last person on the planet to worry about. Yeah, Jax is right. I'm sure Ren is okay, Yuri, Cruz added in as it calmed down Yuri a bit. Then two robotic figures walked into the gymnasium and got their attention. The first one was Robo Knight, the protector of the Earth's environment, and the other robotic ranger ally known as the Blue Centurion, an intergalactic police officer. The two robots of justice stopped in front of the group when Nezu walked up to them for a chat. Robo Knight and Blue Centurion, how is your patrol around the campus coming along? Nezu asked the two robotic rangers since the break-in early today forced him to have both of them patrolling the campus and would respond in force to handle intruders if necessary. Everything is clear. No sign of any of the intruders from earlier, sir, Robo Knight replied to him. That's good to hear, Nezu said with a smile before asking something else. Also, have you seen Amamiya or any of the other Hero Force Rangers recently? Negative. We haven't seen any of the Rangers on campus, Blue Centurion said to him. In fact, I don't detect any of their morpher signals anymore. Hearing that put everyone in the room on edge, as they were starting to get worried for their safety now, and were about to do something about it until a portal opened up in the middle of the gymnasium that freaked out most of them. Yuri flinched in fear before quickly moving behind Cruz as the beast bots moved away to a safer direction with Nezu and Yuri following. Toshinori immediately went into his muscle form with him and Aizawa getting into battle positions, along with Robo Knight, and the Blue Centurion ready to fight whoever was coming through that portal. You beast bots, protect young Yuri, All Might ordered the robots. You don't have to tell us twice, Jax replied back to the hero. What the hell is that? Aizawa said, readying his scarf, thinking it was the intruders from earlier. It looks like an interdimensional portal, Robo Knight said, informing them. My sensor detected multiple life forms coming through it. Before anything else was said, the people in the gymnasium were taken by surprise when Ren, Kendo, Midoriya, Jiru, Awase, Yui, Momo, and Takoyami appeared from the patrol with their school uniforms damaged and injuries all over their bodies. Cool, we're back, Awase commented in relief, along with the other ranger. Ren, divided by everyone. Most of the people in the gymnasium shouted in relief. Yuri immediately rushed over to her brother in pure joy to see him and gave him a hug that made the boy flinch from the pain of his injuries. Ren, Yuri cried out in happiness while squeezing him tightly. Izzy, Yuri, my body is pretty sore right now, Ren said to his sister while wincing in pain. Rangers, what in the world happened to you? All Might asked, seeing his students injured. Yeah, it looked like someone did a number on all of you, Smash said with his own concern. That's kinda of a long story, Holotommy said before appearing in front of everyone. But right now, we need to get everyone to recover girl, for he didn't finish his sentence when something unexpected happened in front of them. Suddenly, Sayla came through the patrol and landed on her knees with everyone's eyes now on her, right before the patrol to the other universe closed. Sayla, all the Hero Force Rangers cried out together in shock as the demon woman blinked in confusion. "Where am I?" Sayla asked confusingly while observing her new surroundings. "What are you doing here?" Midoriya asked in a shocked tone, as he and the others didn't her to follow them back to their universe. Sayla didn't know what to say, as her eyes were drifting in another direction. While all of this was happening, Aizawa instantly locked gazes on the situation in front of him. His students were badly hurt, as it looked like they just finished some kind of battle, and this unknown horned woman who came through the patrol was unknown to them. The hero let out a heavy sigh as he could feel a major headache coming his way. "Explain everything." Aizawa spoke in a demanding tone that got everyone's attention. "That's kinda vague, don't you think? Wanna be a little more specific?" Ren said with a face-splitting grin, with the man not appreciating it. Aizawa wasn't in the mood for this. He was already sleepy because of them and didn't want to waste any more of his time. He crossed his arms and walked to the center of the room, looking at them with a serious gaze. "Start talking," Aizawa ordered deeply in a non-joking mode, making the Rangers a bit nervous. Nezu just mentally laughs at the scene before him. Never a dull moment with the Power Rangers around, he thought while having a devilish smile on his face, before ordering Robo Knight and Blue Centurion to continue their patrol around the school. Unknown Knight. In a dark chamber-like room with a number of irreplaceable valuables around in glass cases, a certain individual was sitting on his throne and observing multiple holographic screens in the air that showed heroes from other universes and realities, fighting against the evil beings in their worlds. So many rangers and heroes, so much potential, squandered for so long over something as petty as peace and justice. The male figure said in utter disappointment at how so many of these so-called saviors from across the multiverse were wasting their powers to become something more than themselves on seemingly trivial heroics. And this world is no different, even though it's among the strongest universe in the whole multiverse. He wasn't exaggerating, as the MHA world was a part of the Shonen Jump universe, which is said to have the strongest beings in existence living there. While the other universe beings may be strong and powerful in their own right, they still couldn't hold a candle to the Shonen Jump warriors and powers. But now they have their very own team of Power Rangers, the male figure said, watching a screen with all of the Hero Force Rangers' actions in this world before the video stopped with an image of Ren on it. "You better grow stronger soon, my fated rival, or else killing you as you are now and taking the Master Morpher wouldn't be fun if it isn't a challenge for me," he said with a dark chuckle, as the leader of the Hero Force Ranger wasn't on his level just yet. Soon one of his top generals walked into his throne room behind him and kneeled on the floor before the man on the throne slightly turned his head to acknowledge his general presence. "What do you want, Thrax?" the male figure asked in a stoic tone. "My lord," Thrax said, bowing his head in respect to his lord. "The generals are ready for the meeting and await your presence. All that is left for us to do is grab our guests, and we can begin," he informed his lord. "Very well, I will join you all later shortly. Until then, go fetch our new guests and introduce them to the other generals," the male figure said before turning his gaze back to the many holographic screens. "I need to go suit up real quick to make a good first impression on them," he said, holding a morpher in his hand that resembles a power morpher. "As you command, my lord." "It will be done," Thrax said before standing back up and walking out of the chamber to follow his lord's directions. UA. High School Nurse Office Night. In the nurse's office of Recovery Girl, the Hero Force Rangers were getting treated by the recovery heroine after the fight they had in the fairy tale universe, with Eri, Aizawa, Toshinori, and Nezu there too. The three Beastbots left not too long ago to help Alpha, Circuit, and Solon rebuild the school, and upgrade its security for endeavors like what happened earlier today. The Rangers were covered in bandages all over their bodies, with girls sitting on the beds and guys sitting in chairs, as Recovery Girl just finished patching them up with her quirk. While Recovery Girl was threatening the hero students, Holotommy was explaining everything that happened to them in the fairy tale universe, which shocked the adults in the room to learn what their students got themselves into. And that's pretty much the gist of it. Holotommy finished telling them about what they were up to in the other world. "So let's get this straight. You're telling us that you 8 children just traveled to a completely different universe from our own and fought a group of magical cultists to save a bunch of slaves all by yourselves. Then next, you all fought against 2 powerful demons and a giant demon that were created by an immune dark wizard. And now their organization is aware of your existence and wants revenge on all for getting in their way. Toshinori asked with a dumbfounded look at what his students just told them. Yeah, pretty much sums up our whole story, Midoriya said with a shrug, as he was to try to react to his teacher's surprise. Hell of a first mission for us, Oase added, and like it wasn't a big deal. Agreed, Yui said while holding Eri in her arms. The little girl was feeling a bit more comfortable being around other people now, and happily eating the promised candy apple in her hands. Aizawa on the other hand groaned and rubbed his forehead in irritation. Problem children, can you all not go at least 24 hours without getting into some kind of trouble? He said, looking at the Rangers with a face that said, I am so done with this bullshit. Sounds like you all had quite the adventure, Nezu said with a smile, as he enjoyed the story they told them. Not even pros yet, but you're still accomplishing so much in only a short amount of time, he said with a proud smile. Thank you for such kind words, Principal Nezu, Momo said with a bow. You've gone up against all kinds of odds that, honestly, didn't seem in your favor, Toshinori said before smiling and giving them a thumbs up. But you've pulled through with your own strength and dignity. So excellent work, Power Rangers. He was happy for their success in the other world. He's right, Holotommy added, from beside him. You should be really proud of yourselves. You saved a lot of lives today. I can tell you've worked hard, Aizawa said with a heavy sigh and eyes closed. If everything I heard was true, you guys have grown from this experience and know what it's like to face real villains this early. He then reopened his eyes at them. Either way, good job. But try not to make it a constant habit. We'll try, sir, but we can't make any promises given our line of work, Jiru said with a weak grin while also rubbing the back of her head. She's right, sir. If we get the call, then we have to take action, Ren said with a nod. Just promise us you kids won't come back with too big of injuries, okay? Recover Girl asked them in a lecturing tone, not wanting to heal them every single time they go out on their ranger missions. Also no training or exercising for at least a few days. I want you all to get at least 8 hours of sleep for your bodies to recover. Yes ma'am, all the rangers said to her. You hear that, Aizawa? No hero training for a while, and I'll be sure to inform Vlad later about his students too, Recover Girl said in a stern tone, which made Eraserhead have no course but to follow, as he knew not to make the old hag angry. Fine, but I still need to attend classes or else they'll get left behind by the other students, Aizawa said, as he didn't want any of them to miss any classes. You don't need to worry about them not training for too long, Aizawa, Holotommy reassured the man. Thanks to their connection to the Morphin Grid, Rangers can heal much faster than the average person, so they'll be fine in a day or two at best, he informed him, getting a nod from the teacher. That's a good thing to know, Toshinori said, as he was impressed at what the Morphing Grid was capable of doing. Speaking of which, there is still one more problem to address, Aizawa said as his gaze shifted to the other side of the room, to look at a certain individual who's been quiet the entire time. Who is this woman and why did she follow you here? He asked, with everyone's gazes now focusing on the Etherius, Sayla, who was located in the corner of the room, as the demon was settled on the floor with legs folded and silently stared at the human hard, while also listening to their conversation. She has bandages wrapped around her body, with Recover Girl treating her injuries too. Well, do you remember how we told you that we fought 2 demons in that other world? Midoriya said as his gaze was on the demoness. Well, this is one of them, he said, alarming the adults in the room with worry and caution. Then why is someone this dangerous here in our world? Aizawa asked in a stern tone, as he kept a watchful eye on this dangerous threat. We don't know. She must have followed us through the portal on our way back home, Ren said to them in a defensive tone. Besides, she's no danger to anyone now after that battle she had with us, he said with his homeroom teacher glare to the demon woman. Why are you here? Aizawa demanded with his eyes narrowed suspiciously. What reason do you have for coming over from your world to this one? If it's for revenge on our students, then you have another thing coming, demon, Toshinori said with a serious expression and was ready to change into his muscle form if necessary. Sayla ignored their threats on her and just answered the 2 humans honestly. I don't seek revenge, as it would gain me nothing in the end, she said with her eyes closed. And like he said, I couldn't fight you even if I wanted to because of my injuries and the lack of energy. I have to use my macro curse. Aizawa had no idea what she meant by macro curse, but he didn't like it since his students told him about these demons from that universe possessing something called curses, which were completely different from quirks, so his powers wouldn't work on her, but that wouldn't stop the man from taking down a dangerous threat like this Etherius. Then why are you here? Aizawa demanded while preparing his scarves. I'm here because I wish to see the story of the Power Rangers for myself, Sayla explained calmly before her gaze focused on Ren. but also to serve under the human who goes by the name Ren Amamiya. There was silence following her statement as all of the humans stared at her. What? Toshinori and Aizawa both said blankly. What? Holotommy and Recovery Girl both said in surprise. What? The Rangers all said in confusion. Huh? Eri said, tilting her head as she was clueless about what was going on. HMPH. Nezu hummed with a curious smile as he didn't expect this from her. In her long life, she read the stories of thousands of humans, and all of their tales pretty much ended the same. But this Ren Amamiya story was coming new to her. A new tale that had its twists and surprises that completely piqued the female Ithuria's curiosity to no end, as she wasn't going to waste this chance to read a new story. Ithuria snapped her head over to him. I am forever in your service, Master Ren, Sayla said to him with a pleasant voice while also giving a quick bow to him. What? The Hero Force Rangers shouted even louder, and even Aizawa had a look of shock on their faces from both Sayla's words and her position towards Ren. Wawinha, Ren let out in complete confusion. Master, what are you talking about? You freaking serious about this? Kendo asked, letting her brain struggle to grasp all this information. Of course I am, Sayla confirmed as she looked at Ren. Even after defeating me, you spared my life and gave me a new reason to live after everything was taken from me. So for as long as I live I will stand by your side and do whatever it is you ask of me, Master, Sayla said to him with a serious look in her eyes. Well, this was something unexpected, Toshinori said as he didn't know how to feel about this demon living with one of his students. You can't pay for entertainment like this, Nezu said as he had an amused smile from all this, leading to Aizawa glaring at the small animal a bit. How do we know you ain't just lying to us? Recovery Girl said in a tone full of suspicion. This could just be a trick for us to lower our guards and then you'll kill us when we least expected it, she said, getting a good point, with everyone in the room narrowing their eyes at her. She isn't lying, Ren said, silencing everyone in the room and getting their attention on him before speaking again. The Red Lion told me that Sayla's heart is speaking the truth and I don't feel any malicious like I did before when we fought against her, he said with certainty. Besides, this isn't the first time a villain that the Rangers fought against turned good. We've all seen it in Ranger history, he stated, making everyone think about the few Ranger villains turning to the side of good. He's not wrong. My original self started off bad before the other Rangers set him free from Rita's control, Holotommy said to them. So what do you guys think about this? Ren asked his friends if they were okay with the decision. Should we give Sayla a chance to prove herself or just send her back to her world and be done with it? The other Rangers looked at each other in silence as they were a bit conflicted with the idea of someone who tried to kill them not too long ago, wanting to stay in the world with them. Well, if Ren is okay with giving Sayla a second chance, then so am I, Yui said without any hesitation in her tone. I trusted his judgment. After she made her decision, someone else spoke up next. I would be lying if I said I was comfortable with the idea of someone like Sayla in our world working alongside us, Momo said, giving her honest opinion about this situation, before sighing to herself and continuing to speak. But just like Yui, I'm willing to put my fate in Ren's judgment. I think we should give Sayla a chance, Midoriya said, giving his opinion on the matter. I mean, some past Ranger villains ended up turning good, so the same could be said about her too, he said, willing to give the demoness a chance to prove that she's turned over a new leaf. I fully agree with what Midoriya said. Even if she is a creature born from the darkness, she could still use her ability to serve the light, Takoyami said in his usually mysterious way of speaking. I guess I don't see a problem with the idea of her staying in our world if our leader said she's cool, Kendo said, having faith in her leader's choice. Same here, Jiru said with a little nod. I'm willing to forgive and forget if she wants to change her ways. What the hell? If everyone is willing to give her a chance, then so am I too, Owace said, scratching his head. And besides, even if she does try something, we can always just beat her up again, he added to the conversation. True, she has nowhere to go and hide with so many heroes in our world hunting her down, Holotommy said with his arms crossed. I have no idea what's going on, but if Ren says she's already, then I believe in her too, Eri said with a childlike innocent smile. Are you sure it's safe to have her here? The class, when a homeroom teacher questioned his boss. She did try to kill our students after all. Of course I'm sure, Nezu stated with his usual smile and calm expression on his face. If Amamiya was true about her having a chance of heart and that she is no longer part of that dark guild, then we wouldn't have to worry about a thing, he said as he was clearly enjoying these, much to Aizawa's annoyance. We're not considerably thinking about letting this happen, Aizawa demanded to know. Nezu chuckled as he folded the note and stored it in his suitcase pocket. Of course we are not, he said with an evil grin on his face. Unless she can provide, she won't be a threat to our world. he stated, giving an evil grin. Aizawa and All Might looked at their boss with matching horrified expressions. Nezu, no, both men pleaded. The principal of UA merely cackled as he let out another laugh. Nezu, yes. Anizi, you always yes, Nezu said before calming down a bit and looking at the demon woman. Miss Sayla, was it? If you're genuinely about starting anew in our world, then we can't exactly turn you down. So are you sure about this decision of yours? He asked her. If it means I can be with my new master, then of course. Sailor replied back with a nod. That's wonderful news to hear, Nezu said with a smile before turning into a serious expression. However, due to past actions as a villain back in your universe, we will be placing you in the redemption program. Redemption program, Momo said with a finger under her chin. I don't think I've ever heard that before, sir, she said with curiosity. The UA redemption program, Nezu explained to them. It is a project I have been working on for a couple of years, a method of allowing villains and vigilantes the chance to either work off their debts to the government or become officially licensed heroes. You can call it UARP for short. UARP? Everyone in the room said, raising a brow at that acronym. Are you sure that the Hero Public Safety Commission will approve of it though? Sayla has no information or valid identification in our world, making her an illegal alien. Holo Tommy said as he knew how bad this world government is. Not to mention Sayla is not even human, Toshinori added with a sigh. Also, Sayla Curse lets her control anyone or anything like they were her own puppets. So putting her in Tartarus prison with a power that can bypass technology designed to nullify quirks would run the risk of leading to a prison break. And I believe none of us wish to see the world's most dangerous villains free again. Holo Tommy said, which somehow alerted the Etherius woman. Excuse me, Sayla choked with a surprised expression on her face. Did you just say Tartarus is in this world? Oh, our apologies. Nezu chuckled at her reaction. I suppose that would be rather confusing for you. Allow me to clarify. Tartarus is the name of the maximum security prison here in Japan that houses the most dangerous criminals in the country. I assure you it has nothing to do with your former guild at all, he said, calming the demon down from her shock. I see, Sayla said with her stoic expression returning. While it matters not, I'm willing to accept any offer you suggest for me to fix my past sins, she said with some shame in her voice. While we could try and create a cover story, it most likely wouldn't work given Sayla has no trace or records of her life here, Nezu explained to everyone. Starting in the next few days, Sayla will be a part of the redemption program and will be placed in Class 1 as the newest UA student, he said with joy in his tone. Meanwhile, Aizawa just sighed and rubbed his forehead, already feeling the future headaches coming. What the hell's happening to my class? The teacher sighed as Nezu simply giggled before looking at the demon woman with a scowl. For now, we shall keep you under watch. You may have been granted a new life in our world, but the moment you intentionally endanger my students or anyone else here, we shall not hesitate to take you down. Are we clear? He sternly replied. The Rangers looked in shock at Aizawa but quickly turned back, masking their expressions the best they could. He was right. If the Etherius ended up being a threat, she needed to be dealt with as quickly as possible. They wanted to argue, but none of them could come up with a counter, as the Etherius was far more dangerous than a regular criminal in their world, and by the time they could do anything to stop her, the demoness could seriously damage UA and their city, possibly beyond repair. The Etherius sighed to the demands before speaking again. Fair enough, Sayla accepted without any hint of argument. Good, Aizawa said with a satisfying nod before looking at Ren. Amamiya, I expect you to keep a watchful eye on her. I will, sir, Ren said before looking at Sayla awkwardly. I guess we'll be working together from now on. Yes, it seems so, Master Ren, Sayla said with a tiny smile. Thank you for believing in me and feel free to use me however you see fit, she said, making a sweat drop appear on his back head. So this is my life now, Ren said, pitching between his eyes a bit before releasing them in exhaustion, as the others in the room gave him looks of sympathy or teasing at the boy's position. In any case, Sayla, I'll have to ask you to provide us with everything you know about Tartarus and what they are planning in the future so we can stop them, he said with a slightly serious expression, as he and the other Rangers were planning to go back to that universe to stop Tartarus and Zeref once and for all when they get stronger. That fight with Sayla and Kyoka showed the Rangers that they still had a long way to go, and that would need to be strong enough to face any threat they're up against. If that is your wish, Master, then I will tell you everything I know about Tartarus, Sayla said to him with a nod. The Tartarus problem can wait for now, as there's still one more thing we need to discuss, Holo Tommy said as his gaze went to Midoriya. Midoriya, I think it's time to tell us about your new quirk. he said, surprising everyone in the room who didn't know about Midoriya's newest quirk. What? Toshinori shouted while also coughing up some blood from his mouth. What does he mean by a new quirk, young Midoriya? Well, this is going to be a crazy story to tell them. Midoriya thought with a nervous laugh while scratching his cheek before telling everyone what he experienced back in the other universe. League of Villains hideout night. Meanwhile, at the League of Villains hideout, the villains were going over their plan to kill the symbol of peace. Tamura was sitting at the bar counter with a sheet of paper in his hand, and Kurogiri was behind the counter like usual making a drink. This UA staff schedule says that All Might, 13, Eraserhead, and Vlad King will be accompanying Class 1A and 1B to the USJ for rescue training, Tamura said in a raspy voice before handing the papers to the bartender. The training doesn't start until a few more days, which will give us time to properly prepare, Kurogiri said as he looked at the schedule. Oh please Kurogiri, it's not like those heroes and brats should be strong enough to kill Namu, Tamura said before walking over to a chest. He opened it and pulled out a severed hand before placing it on his face. I think it's time for the symbol of peace to die. Yes, that may be true, Tamura Shigaraki, but we should be ready for the worst. Kurogiri warned his master as his overconfidence might lead to his downfall. Kurogiri is right, Tamura. Nothing is strutted in battle, the voice from the TV monitor said to his student. Of course, master, Tamura said in a slightly regretful tone. I'm just excited to finally kill that stupid symbol of peace for good. That's alright, Tamura, just as long as you learn something from this, the voice from the TV monitor said to him. If it's help you want, then I can provide you with assistance, the new voice said as a creature that they'd never seen before teleported into the middle of the bar, making the villains jump in alert. After all, we share a common enemy. What the hell? Tamura cursed while looking at the monster. Who are you? And how did you get in here? Kurogiri demanded a tone as he covered more of his body in mist and got into a combat position to protect Tamura. Granting my fellow evil companies. I am Thrax, son of Rita Repulsa and Lord Zed, and my reasons for being here is that me and your master have struck a deal to help you kill this world's greatest hero. Thrax calmly explained to the villain, which shocked them. What? Is that true, master? Tamura asked him in confusion. It's the truth, Tamura Shigaraki. Me and Thrax, along with some of his allies, formed a partnership with one another about a year ago, the voice from the TV monitor said in a pleased tone. Thrax and his forces will assist you on your attack at the USJ. But why didn't you inform us about this alliance? Kurogiri asked in curiosity. Because it wasn't the proper time to inform you about Thrax and his allies, not until the right moment, the voice from the TV monitor explained. And what can this guy do to help us kill All Might? Tamura asked in an unimpressive voice. He doesn't look like he can do much. For one, you hands brat, I have an army, Thrax said, holding his staff up in the air to summon an army of 2 ranger villain generals and a number of grunts behind himself, which shocked the League of Villains members once more. And this is just one of many other resources that the newly formed United Alliance of Evil has up their disposal. Tamura and Kurogiri stood there in silence looking at the strange monsters with interest before turning their attention back on Thrax. And what do you get out of this? Tamura asked in curiosity. To crush every single hero in this world and show them that their symbol of peace is nothing but a weak human behind that pathetic smile of his, Thrax said menacingly while clenching his staff in disguise. With our help, no one will stop standing in your way of killing All Might and any other hero you want dead. Upon hearing those words, a very disturbing grin appears on Tamura as he likes the sound of that. You know what, I'm starting to like this guy, Tamura thought while looking at Thrax in a new light. Well, if you can help us kill All Might, then you're more than welcome to join our guild raid. I appreciate the offer, Shigaraki. So finally, after a full year of waiting, we shall rule this world together all for one, and no one will stand in our way, Thrax declared to the most evilest man on the planet. This has been a truly fruitful partnership, Thrax, all for one said through the TV monitor in a pleased manner. You said you had other allies, helping you as well, Mr. Thrax. So where are they at right now? Kurogiri asked the villain. You'll meet them in done time, my new friends. All that you should worry about now is killing All Might, Thrax said before saying something else in disgust. And most importantly, the Power Rangers. Tower who? Tamura raised a confused eyebrow at the name. You'll know soon when we meet with the others, Thrax said to him before talking to his evil ally. All for one. It might be best if I introduce these two to the others. Very well. It would be good for Tamura and Kurogiri to meet with your allies before the operation. All for one agreed to the idea for Tamura and Kurogiri to meet the other ranger villain. But be sure they come back in one piece. I know that a few in the alliance will not take kindly to their presence there. Understand, all for one. Now off we go to our secret base, Thrax said with a nod before raising his staff before him. His monsters, Tamura and Kurogiri, teleport from the bar in a flash of purple light. Somewhere else in a separate secret location that was close to the villain's bar, two men were seated in a very dark room, which was only lit by multiple monitors displaying several different infographics and data. Connected to the monitors were multiple large processors to help download and analyze the data displayed on the screens. The first man was dressed in a black suit, but this man was in grave condition. A single look at his face would be enough to frighten anyone who saw it, for almost all of the features, eyes, nose, ears, hair, and everything except the mouth was replaced with scar tissue. This was the symbol of evil, all for one. The second one is an older man with no hair, a huge, bushy mustache, and a very peculiar set of glasses. He was also dressed in a doctor's outfit, wearing a white lab coat. His name is Dr. Kudai Garaki. Connected to all for one were multiple IVs and tubes, sticking into his skin and helping his body function. He was badly injured in his battle with All Might 6 years ago, as All for One had almost his entire body destroyed, leaving him on the verge of death, and in such debilitating condition that were he any average person, he'd have likely died 6 years ago. The only reason he was still alive now was thanks to his personal doctor, Kudai Garaki, who also went by Daruma Yujiko. Now the symbol of evil was sitting in his chair watching, planning, and waiting for his chance to re-emerge back into the world. But first, he would spend the remainder of his time grooming his student Tamura into the next symbol of evil just like him. Are you sure it was a wise idea to introduce Shigaraki to the leaders of the Alliance so soon? Garaki asked, doing his creak on All for One's condition. You know how he is when people insult him the wrong way. And most of the creatures there don't like humans that much, he said, remembering the cold shoulder those monsters gave him when he first met them. He was really interested in the United Alliance of Evil, highly advanced technically, and was hoping to experiment on some of their monsters. It'll be fine, Doctor. Kurogiri is with him to make sure Tamura doesn't do anything too foolish. All for One said, resting his fist on his left cheek. Also, this will be a good learning experience for him, as Thrax and his allies could show Tamura what he lacks to become the perfect symbol of fear. The man said without concern, as he couldn't be more happy to ally himself with such evil beings. This time for sure, he wasn't going to fail to make the world bend to his will. UA, High School Nurse Office Night. After a quick explanation from Midoriya about his new quirk and what he had learned and seen while he was unconscious back in the other world. When the ninth holder of One for All was finished telling his story, the people in the room were in shock, awe, and disbelief at what the green-haired boy said. Even Sayla was surprised to hear the power that the green-haired human possessed. She didn't even think any of the demons in her old guild would even come close to having that type of firepower. Truly, you spoke with the vestiges of the past users of One for All, Toshinori asked as he coughed up a bit of blood from the surprise. Okay, let me get this straight, Ren said with awe and disbelief. You meet two of the past wielders of One for All in a dream, and they're all still somewhat alive inside of your quirk. Oase asked in equal awe and disbelief. Not only that, but you'll be able to use their quirks too, giving more powers, Kendo said to her boyfriend. This is amazing, Midoriya, Takoyami said with a smile. Your quirk really is something else, but not mysterious. Indeed, this is truly interesting news to hear, Nezu said while humming curiously. So One for All is evolving, is it? And you said it passed a point of singularity. Yeah, Midoriya said with a nod in confirmation. After that happened, I unlocked the ability to use one of the other users' quirks. A man named Agoro Banjo whose quirk is called Black Whip, he said before he lifted his hand and activated Black Whip, causing a few short black tendrils to appear and move around in his palm while he explained the quirk's uses. I'm starting to get the hang of it, but it's still a little difficult for me to use at the moment. It's differently sounds like useful power to have when you're out in the field, Aizawa said with a nod of approval. But we'll be sure to get that new power of yours in check with a little extra training. Is there nothing this power can't do? Yui asked with a blank look on her face. I knew One for All wasn't a normal quirk, but I didn't. This is unreal, Momo commented with a finger under her chin while thinking about her friend's quirk. If my time as a ranger taught me anything, is that nothing is impossible, and that also includes this. Holo Tommy thought with a smile on his face. Quirks even to this day are a still mystery, especially One for All. Okay, so what are we going to do now about? Midoriya asked everyone. Now, we do some more training when you're healed up, Toshinori said before getting up and walking off to Midoriya. If what the two past users is true, then you still have 5 more quirks to awaken to and get under control, he said, placing a hand on his shoulder. but we can talk more about that later. As for right now, I think you kids deserve a good night's rest after the day you had. He gave the boy a smile. Yeah, we deserved it after tonight, Kendo said, smiling while walking up next to him and holding his hand, with Midoriya blushing back. Right, Midoriya replied back with his own smile, as they left the room together like a happy new couple. We should get going too, or else our parents will start worrying, Momo said, with the others nodding and leaving the room too. Yeah, knowing my old man, he might go a bit overboard after seeing my injuries, Jiru said with little annoyance, as she loved her father, but he can be embarrassing at times. Today sure was eventful and life-changing, Takoyami said while holding up his black energem and looking at it with an interested gaze. Yeah, Awase said with a chuckle while looking at his blue power star. Can't wait for more adventures as a ranger, he said with him, and Takoyami walked out of the room next. Tried, Yui said with a yawn as she was done for tonight. Night, Ren and Iri, she said with a warm smile before going as well. Later, babe, Ren said to his new girlfriend. Bye, Miss Yui, Iri said, waving her off with a smile. Looks like she's starting to get used to being around other people. Holo Tommy thought with a smile at how the young girl's happiness was returning back to her. We should have a home as well. Your dad might get worried if gone for too long, he said before disappearing from sight. Got it, Tommy. Come on, Iri and Sayla, Ren said to them, with him holding his sister's hand. Let's head home, he said while leaving the room. Okay, Iri happily said while licking her candy apple. Understood, Sayla said, following behind them, and was ready to start the newest chapter in her life. Once they were gone, it was only the teachers left in the nurse's office, with Aizawa letting out a loud, long, tiring sigh while thinking about everything his student had done that day. Damn problem children, making my job more difficulty than it already is, Aizawa muttered in annoyance while rubbing his forehead. Come on, Aizawa, don't rain on these kids' parade. They're on the right path to becoming amazing heroes, Toshinori said, playful, slapping him on the back, before leaving the room with a proud smile. I don't get paid enough for this job, Aizawa muttered to himself before walking out the door next, as he was seriously done for today. Recovery girl just sighs in frustration before speaking to Nezu. Those kids are going to cause me a lot of problems, aren't they? Especially if they continue jumping to other worlds like this, she said. Most likely, Nezu replied with a grin appearing on his face. But don't you think it will be entertaining? Now we have a demon attending our school, he asked in excitement while also laughing like a madman. They really are teenagers with attitude. Recovery girl just sighed as she wished the best for the Rangers and hoped that Nezu didn't do anything too crazy to the heroes. Unknown, the trail of purple light makes the groups of monsters and two villains appear in the middle of a futuristic hallway, as Tamura and Kurogiri look around in confusion. What the hell? Tamura asked, looking at his new surroundings. Where are we? I used my power to teleport us to our secret base of operations, Thrax informed them before looking at the monsters who were with them. All of you return to your posts and get back to work. There's still much to be done before we can begin our main objective, he ordered the monster as they bowed heads to him before leaving. Where are you going? Kurogiri asked while watching the group of monsters leave. The forces we have at the moment won't be enough to take out the heroes just yet. We still need the proper reinforcements in order to successfully enact our invasion. Thrax replied a bit of their plans. Kurogiri nodded, but he had no idea what to expect from Thrax. Thrax seemed to be a devious man, and he figured this is why his master is in partnership with him. The clanking of boots and the sound of gears grinding caught their attention as a large android emerged from behind them. This is Professor Cog. He has triple red eyes staring the two humans down while a group of grinders flanked at his sides. Professor Cog, it is a pleasure to meet your audience again. Thrax said hello to his ally. Likewise, Thrax, Professor Cog said back before returning his gaze to the two human villains. So you are the ones that Thrax invited to see our masters, he said, taking a few steps forward to the villains. I can't imagine why they would waste time on a bunch of pathetic humans. What was that, you overgrown tin can? Tamura said, letting out a small growl of annoyance, and was about to turn the android to dust with his quirk, only to be stopped by a Kurogiri who was in front of him. Calm yourself, Tamura Shigaraki. It would be unwise to attack a new ally, Kurogiri said, trying to calm down Tamura. Out of my way, Kurogiri. I'm going to kill this stupid thing for pissing me off, Tamura shouted in a fit of rage as he was scratching his neck in frustration. Professor Cog just slightly chuckles at the man throwing a tantrum. I'd like to see you try a weakling. He mocked the decay villain even more. You, Tamura said in a murderous tone, and was about to charge at the robot. Enough, Thrax shouted loud enough to stop a fight from breaking out. Please refrain from antagonizing our guests, Professor Cog. The deal we made with All for One is that we will work with his student and any others that join their cause. He remained the android, getting a scoff of annoyance from him. Whatever, it doesn't matter in the end anyway, Professor Cog said before he and the grinders walked past them to head to a nearby metal door, with it sliding open and inside the room that looked like a laboratory. As long as they pull their weight around here, then I guess I'll tolerate their presence, he said as they walked into the laboratory and the metal door closed behind them. Tamura was now livid at how Professor Cog just plainly brushed him off like he wasn't even worth his time. Then he turned his gaze at Thrax with his finger pointed at him. Hey, Thrax, we did not come here to be insulted by a lowly NPC. You brought us here to meet your party members that could benefit both our forces to kill All Might. So I would suggest you show us some respect before I turn someone into dust. Tamura threatened with killing intent coming off his body. The son of the two most evilest people in the universe let out a low grumble at the villain's childlike behavior. Please forgive how Professor Cog spoke to you. It's just that there are some among us who don't think very fondly of humans, Thrax said, turning towards a pathway. The others should be waiting for our arrival in the meeting room, so follow me and be sure to stay close to me at all times, he said, walking forward with Kurogiri and Tamura following him. Why is that, Thrax? Kurogiri asked the monster. I wasn't kidding when I said that there are some in our ranks that dislike humans, Thrax said, warning the two with a tone of seriousness. The only reason you two haven't been destroyed right now is because you're with me in relationship with All for One, he stated, making Torma scoffed in response. Please, if anyone tries anything to me, I'll turn them to dust, Tamura said, as he was clearly not threatened by the monsters in the alliance. Kurogiri just silently sighs at Tamura's usual childish and naive behavior. He was clearly underestimating the power these monsters possess, and was hoping that Tamura wouldn't end up angry with one of them here or else suffer the consequences. Thrax continued to lead them along the hallway until the three arrived at an elevator leading to a different location than the one they were at. Thrax stepped on while Kurogiri and Tamura were hesitant for a moment, but followed him in before the elevator door closed up and began to move. Excuse, Mr. Thrax, but I have a question about these masters you speak of and their relationship with One for All, Kurogiri asked innocently, with Thrax turning his head towards him. It started about a year ago when we came to this universe. We sent multiple scouts to study this planet's defenses and to learn how powerful the humans in this world were. That's when we happened to come across All for One and stroke a deal with him since our interests aligned with one another, Thrax explained to him. Wait, what do you mean by this universe? Torma pressed, his curiosity piqued. Patience, Shigaraki. Everything will be explained when we meet with the masters, Thrax said before the elevator came to a halt and the doors opened to reveal a glass dome pathway, with a metal floor and tunnel of clear see-through glass. Well, that isn't creepy, Tamura said sarcastically, with Thrax merely chuckled at what he heard before three villains stepped off the elevator and continued on the walkway. I suggest you mentally prepare yourself for what you witness next, Thrax warned them, as both villains were confused by what he just said. Before Kurogiri and Tamura could even ask Thrax what he meant, their eyes completely widened in utter astonishment at the sight before them. It is a massive military-style castle made from an unknown black metal with 5 large towers that have large black-colored horned skull heads that have skeletal bat wings coming out of the sides of them. There are 3 horns each and they are coming out of the top of the skulls. The middle horn is straight while the other 2 horns were curved and pointing toward the middle horn's tip. One tower, which is in the middle of the castle, is the largest and tallest of the 5, with the other 4 towers being the corners of the walls. Around the castle was a large dome made from some kind of glass-like material that was similar to Terra Venture, which provided oxygen and warm temperatures from the harshness of outer space. Outside of the dome as well as inside the dome and outside of the castle were several land vehicles and spaceships, with the planet Earth showing in the background. Besides the vehicles, there were several monsters and machines. Some of them were patrolling in case of unknown intruders and some were working on various things such as repairs, system checkups, and cleaning of various places and items. Holy shit, Tamura said at the sight. An army of monsters and machines marched below them and were busy moving crates of supplies and ammunition. At least a dozen with drop ships were carrying in more containers from an opening above the dome. Are we in outer space right now? Kurogiri asked in an awestruck expression, as he didn't know how to react to this. Indeed we are, my friends, Thrax said as their attention was now on him, with the villain grinning proudly. We completely terraformed your world's moon into a base of operations, as this will be the first of many when we start our plans to conquer this planet. You don't say, Tamura said while looking back at the Earth. Never was a fan of space games, but I think they're starting to warm up on me. he commented with a twisted smile. Come on you both. We don't want to keep the others waiting for us, Thrax advised while leading the two villains towards the meeting places. Kurogiri and Tamura took one last look at the United Alliance of Evil base before following Thrax down the pathway as they were finally going to meet with the people in charge of this place. United Alliance of Evil headquarters, throne room. Soon Tamura and Kurogiri were seen standing in the United Alliance of Evil throne room. The throne room has several chambers, and the throne is located in the back of the room and was made from the same metal as the castle, with the back being wider with spikes. In the center of the room is a large table with a crystal orb used to view things in the center. Around the table were several chairs also made from the same metal as the castle. When Thrax leads the two villains into the throne room, they are met with multiple figures standing around the room and staring at the two villains with suspicion of their worth. Just who in the world are these things? Tamura thought as he could feel such an overwhelming presence from the main ranger villains in the room, as it reminded him of his master. Such an overwhelming force these people have. Kurogiri thought as he could feel the dark power coming off the ranger villains. They could even be more powerful compared to any of the world's heroes and villains. Tamura and Kurogiri, Thrax said, getting the two men's attention on him. Let me introduce you both to the Alliance's top generals, he said, moving his hand to the first ranger villain. First, we have the Emperor of Evil and my father, Lord Zed. I was starting to wonder when you would show up, son, Zed said, leaning back against the chair, before looking at Tamura. So the symbol of evil student is this pathetic sack of meat. The ruler of evil clenched his fist, while Tamura glared at the one who dared to insult him. That does it. I'm turning you into dust, you mealy bastard, Tamura shouted while rushing at Zed with the intent to kill the monster. Torma Shigaraki, stop. Kurogiri yelled out to stop his boss from doing something crazy, but his voice fell to death's ears as Tamura was too angry to listen. You have the guts to attack me, Zed said before standing up and raising his staff at the decay villain charging at him like a raging bull. Tamura stretched out his hands to use his quirk to turn the man into dust, only for Zed to easily avoid the pathetic assault by shifting his body to the side as the hand missed its mark, before sending the decay villain away easily with one strike to the abdomen from his staff. "Aw!" Tamura screams out in pain while crushing on the ground in pain, with some of the villains in the room laughing at the pathetic attack on the Emperor of Evil. "Ha, pathetic," Zed commended with a laugh before sitting back down in his chair. "Damn you, Zed," Tamura growled while holding himself in pain and looking at the man with a death glare, with Kurogiri trying to calm him down. "I'll kill you." "Yeah, that'll be the day weekly," Zed said with an uncaring attitude as he didn't have Shigaraki as any kind of threat to him. "Please don't hurt him." "Even more, father," Thrax said, stepping in before this got even more out of hand. "Remember our deal with all for one not to harm him in any way." "TCH, fine son, but I won't hesitate to kill him the next time he attacks me," Zed said, not caring anymore. "Thank you, father," Thrax said before looking at Tamura, who was not recovering from his father's attack on him. "Torma Shigaraki, please refrain from attacking anyone else here as they will not hesitate to kill you, given the chance." "As if any of these NPC could kill me," Tamura said, bashing off the idea that anyone here could kill him. "Anyway, next is a woman who resembles my late mother in her looks and power," Thrax said, moving his hand to a woman dressed in green while holding a golden staff. "This is the all-powerful sorceress Rita Repulsa from an alternative reality," he said, introducing Rita Repulsa. "How can she be powerful?" Tamura asked with disinterest. Rita looked at him and pointed her staff at the man before blasting Tamura back with a green telekinesis attack. "Never mess with a sorceress, little boy," Rita said with a smirk across her face while holding her green power coin. "You bitch," Tamura growled at the woman while getting back up. "Torma Shigaraki, please calm down," Kurogiri suggested to his boss. "Shut it, Kurogiri," Tamura snapped at the mist villain. "So you're the brat that All for One was talking about," Rita said, eyeing the villain for any worth, but so none at all. "Pathetic. You wouldn't even make a good foot soldier," she said with a scoff, before looking away from the angry villain. "What your mouth, bitch," Tamura yelled at the sorceress, who just simply ignorant like he wasn't worth her time, which only made Tamura even madder. "These people are going to pay for not taking me seriously." He thought of swearing acts of revenge on the ones in the room making fun of him. "And now for the next villain," Thrax said, looking at the next person. "He is galactically feared, globally reviled, and universally despised. I present Ivan Ooze." "Ladies and gentlemen, the Ooze is back," Ivan declared while throwing his arms out in the air. "What is this horrible abomination?" Tamura asked in disgust. "It's making me sick." "You're too kind," Ivan said with a smile as he took what he said as a compliment. Soon after that, Thrax started to introduce more of the past main ranger villains to Torma and Kurogiri, such as the Machine Empire's King Mondo the Machine King and his wife Queen Machina the Machine Queen, the intergalactic pirate Divatox who is a clone of the real Divatox turned good, the Princess of Evil Andromeda who is also a clone from the original, the Grand Monarch of Evil Dark Spectre, the Insect Queen Trachea, the Space Pirate Captain Mutiny, the evil matriarch of the All-Demons Queen Benshira and her son Prince Olympius, the mutant criminal from the future Rancic who was also a clone from the original, the ruler of all the orgs Master Org, the evil ninja Master Lothar, the evil dinosauric scientist Mesagog, the Trubians leader Emperor Groom, the ruler of all dark magic Optimus the Master, the two elemental brothers Florius and Molter, the ninja warlord Camdor and his servant Maratrix, the Fearcats Meg and Binglow, the ancient evil Daishi who had the appears of the Phantom Beast King, the evil computer virus Vengix, the leader of the Nilox Master Xandrid, the leader of Warstar Admiral Malker, the emperor of the Armada Emperor Mavro, and his two sons Prince Vrak and Prince Vekar, the alien bounty hunter Sledge and his crew, the vicious intergalactic warlord Lord Arcanon, the undefeated champion Galaxy Warriors Galvanax and Madame Odious, the ruler of the Antiverse Lord Draven, the evolved copy of the Vengix virus Evox, and the Queen Sporix Beast's Void Queen who is also a clone from the original. With Torma and Kurogiri getting to know all the main ranger enemies, Thrax began to speak again. What you both see before you are ever evil, vile, and sinister villains in the universe, Thrax said as he finished introducing his comrades to them. Now as for the reason I brought you both here is for one single purpose, one that we all share. Complete, in total, domination, he said, knowing that was the goal all of them shared, establishing world domination and then expanding outward to even greater heights and power, something none of them denied, as they all wished to conquer the world and the galaxy, if not for one single problem that stopped them all in the past. You're forgetting one thing, Thrax, 3 to 6 teenage brats that come in different of colors, Master Org stated, reminding all of them of their common enemies, the goddamn Power Rangers. Daishi said, clenching his fist hard in rage. So who the hell are these Power Rangers if you keep on talking about them? Torma asked as he didn't like to be kept in the dark for too long. A group of goody two-shoes colorful pests, who always keep interfering with our business of conquest like annoying flies, Groom said with irritation while shaking his fist and his eyes glowing red. Are these Power Rangers really that much of a threat to you all? Kurogiri asked them, making the ranger villains in the room groan in annoyance at the thought of the goody two-shoes colorful heroes. Yes, Camdor said with his fist clenching in anger. Time and time again, whenever we villains try to do something, the rangers would always be there to foil our plans. Which is why we decided that if we couldn't take the world by ourselves, then we would do it together under one banner, Sledge added as well. Together under one banner, Tamura asked with a raised brow. That's right. While some of us may have some bad history with one another, Florius said bitterly as some of the ranger villains in the room tend to betray one another, we decided to forget about our past grudges with each other to destroy a common enemy that all of us share. By combining all of our armies and resources together, we formed a powerful evil alliance, unlike anything the universe has ever seen before, Void Queen said in a gleeful tone. For years many villains have sought to control the world and almost succeeded. However, the Power Rangers of old defeated us, but we only come back stronger than ever. Wando shouted. Now no one will be able to stand in our way. With the forces we assumed, Mesagog said with a hiss. And all this wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for our great powerful leaders, who promised us everything our hearts desire when we conquer this world and others just like it, Andromeda said looking at her nails. This leader of theirs must be one dependent person if they hold him in such high regard. Kurogiri thought as he was curious about this leader they were speaking of so highly. So who is this leader, your most powerful man? Indeed he is, despite being human, Benshira said in a bitter annoyed tone as much she hated to admit the fact a human helped her. He's the reason why all of us are alive again, after our humiliating defeat and deaths against the Power Rangers, Mavro said as they took the two villains by surprise yet again. He brought you all back from the dead, Tamura said in a shocked tone, as he didn't know anyone with cheat codes like that before. Yes, and someone who will help us get revenge on the Power Rangers who destroyed us years ago, Prince Olympius said looking at him and growling lowly. This leader of theirs must be one dependent person if they hold him in such high regard. Kurogiri thought as not even his master was about to pull something like bringing the dead back to life. So how powerful are these heroes who defeated you? You must have their status and skills on record. Tamura asked to want to know about these rangers. Oh, that we do, Tamura, Thrax said to him before turning his head in the other direction. Scrozzle, he shouted to the robot in the room. Coming, Scrozzle said, rushing through the crowd of monsters and up towards the two villains, who got a good look at the robot. Who are you? Tamura asked the strangle-looking robot. Happy you asked, human. I am the mighty Scrozzle, the great genius and inventor in the known universe. Scrozzle said to them in a gleeful manner. You should feel lucky to have someone like me around. You don't look so great to me, Tamura commented to the robot. Well, appearances can be deceiving, Scrozzle said with a boastful laugh. Scrozzle, Evox shouted, making Scrozzle flinch in fear at the angry tone. Hurry up and show them already, before I destroy you where you stand. Oh, of course, Master Evox, Scrozzle said in a nervous and scared voice as he reached into his pocket to pull out a red hard drive. What is that? Kurogiri while eyeing the red hard drive in curiosity. Why, this little thing is a copy of the Legendary Ranger database, which contains the history of everything you need to know about the Power Rangers and the enemies they have fought against, Scrozzle said before walking up towards the table and inserting his copy of the Legendary Ranger database into a machine on the table. And then a holographic screen appears in the air. Now the both of you watch closely at what we're up against, Thrax said to them, with the video start playing for them. Then Tamura and Kurogiri were shown a quick 1-minute video of different ranger teams defeating the monsters in the room before stopping. So those were the Power Rangers? Kurogiri asked in curiosity, as he felt like he'd seen this somewhere before. Are you kidding? Right. You're telling me you're all scared of a bunch of colorful weirdos in spandex, Tamura said while scoffing, as he didn't seem that threatened by the Rangers at all. Don't underestimate them because of their appearance, Thrax said to the Decay villain. Believe when we say they're more of a nonsense than you can even imagine. Yeah, whatever, I'm more focused on killing All Might than some colorful freaks, Turma said while rolling his eyes at the thought of the Power Rangers posing a problem for him when he has that Namu his master gave him. That obsession with the symbol of peace will be your downfall, boy. An ominous voice spoke out through the entire room, making both Tamura and Kurogiri freeze in place like statues at the sudden unexpected voice, with their eyes widened as a cold shiver of dread and fear went down the two villains' spines. It was not an ordinary voice. This one carried power. It was deep and aged, yet still with an air of absolute authority in it. Upon hearing the voice, the atmosphere of the room completely changed as every monster in the throne room except for the main ranger villains who recognized the voice immediately dropped down onto the floor, on one knee, and bowed their heads to the figure sitting on top of the once empty throne. Tamura and Kurogiri trembled in despair and terror, with them struggling to turn their heads to where the throne was before that's where the voice came from. Upon looking up at the throne, the two villains met an unknown figure that wasn't there sitting in the chair like a king, as every instinct was begging them to run away and hide from this terrifying man before them. The man was dressed in a gold and white helmet with a red visor, a silver mouth plate, two red eyes upon the visor, a red orb-like jewel on the forehead at the near bottom of a black horn that has 3 rows of black stripes on the helmet, and a pair of gold horn. He wears a white bodysuit with a pair of gold rings on his biceps, a pair of gold with green edges and slits in the middle armbands, a pair of leg bands colored like the armbands, a green belt with a gold power morpher that has 3 claws or horns for the symbol of the power coin, Saba holstered on the right side of the belt, the dragon dragger holstered on the left side of the belt, and finally, he has green and gold chest and shoulder armor that has the same symbol on the power coin in the middle and a pair of gold bands that goes underneath the arms to hold the chest armor in place. This was Lord Draken, the most evilest Power Ranger to ever exist. Who in the hell is this asshole? Tamura thought with his body trembling in uncontrollable fear, as this newcomer before him shook the Decay villain to his very soul. The aura that this man is giving off is unbelievable. Kurogiri thought in shock, as he too was feeling the uncomfortable weight of being in Draken's presence. Tamura and Kurogiri were struggling to find the strength to move their bodies as they were paralyzed in fear. Their legs were quaking and looked like they were going to give out, and had cold sweats dripping down their faces at the sight of Lord Draken. In fact, just being near him made the two villains sick to their stomachs, as it felt like they were getting weaker from the dreadful aura that Draken was releasing. The only person alive who has ever made them feel this was All For One, and this guy sitting on that throne was not him but felt he was in another complete league than the symbol of evil. Welcome to our base of operations, Tamura, Shigaraki and Kurogiri. I am Lord Draken, the leader of the United Alliance of Evil and the man who will soon rule over the whole multiverse as its new god. Lord Draken stated in a tone fitting an evil ruler and conquer. How do you know who we are, and where did you see come from all of a sudden? Tamura asked while clenching his teeth to force the words out of his mouth. We didn't see you coming into this room at all. Seeing this made Draken chuckle a bit before answering his questions. To answer your first question, your master All for One was the one who informed me about you when we formed our alliance with one another, Lord Draken said in a causally tone with his fist resting on the right side of his helmet. And to your second question, I've been sitting here this entire time. It's just that you two didn't reveal I was here because I've been concealing my presence. Hearing that made both villains' eyes widen in surprise, as they didn't notice the man until he said something despite giving off such a fearsome presence. Why you've been here this whole time, Kurogiri said in a tone of terror. Of course, he has, you fools, Lothar said to the two villains. Everyone in this room was aware of Draken's presence, except for the two of you. If he wanted to, he couldn't have killed the both of you without you two even realizing it, Rita said with a tone of disappointment. This just goes to show that you two primates are weak if you weren't about to notice when our lord is in your presence. She insulted the theme, which only angered Tamura. The hell you call me, bitch? Tamura growled as he was about to rush at her. I'll kill you. Try me, monkey, Rita mocked in a challenging tone, which only angered the man even more. Enough, Zed yelled out while pointing his staff at the two to stop their pointless fight. If you two have the energy to fight, then do fight the Rangers. He's right, Tamura Shigaraki, Kurogiri said, moving his misty head over to his leader's side. We shouldn't be killing our future allies, but focus on taking All Might and these Power Rangers, he said, somehow managing to calm Shigaraki. TCH, whatever. Just as long as these noobs don't get in my way of killing the final boss, Tamura said, scratching his neck in irritation, which made some of the Ranger villains scoff at the Decay villain's comment. Some of them were going to show that boy just how wrong he truly was in assuming they were just noobs. It's time to set things right, Lord Draken said, which silenced everyone in the room as he stood up from his throne. When the time comes, we will invade not just this world but other worlds across the entire multiverse and send the heroes there a message, Lord Draken declared while walking down the stairs from his throne and finally down to ground level. Draken continued his march towards the two villains, who were still put off by the evil Ranger's dark and ominous presence before stepping aside for the man to walk past them in the middle. We will tear down everything that might protect them, Lord Draken said as he made his way to the balcony on the other side of the room with Tamura and Kurogiri following right behind him. And then when it's too late, when they're powerless and alone, he said, reaching the balcony of his fortress to step outside and stop at the edge of the rails, with the villains stopping right behind him. They will realize the truth, he stated, looking down below the balcony, along with Tamura and Kurogiri. What the two villains saw down below the balcony made their eyes widen in pretty shock and awe. There was a giant army of monsters all standing in formation and awaiting orders from their glorious powerful leader who had now made his appearance before them. Soon Lord Draken slightly turned his head back at Tamura and Kurogiri, who noticed this to felt the evil Power Ranger's uncomfortable cold gaze behind his visor, before speaking to them again, which sent another feeling of terror down their spines at what he was just stated. They could have been gods, Lord Draken said coldly without any shred of emotions in his tone, as the red visor on his helmet briefly flashed red for a moment before turning his attention back at his forces down below. This guy is the real deal, a character who completely maxed out his stats and has attended every rare item in the game, Tamura thought with an astonished expression as he started to see Lord Draken as a high-ranking player. I never imagined that I've met anyone just as wicked and evil as All for One, Kurogiri thought in disbelief at the sight of Lord Draken. Now hear me, my army of evil creatures and beings, Lord Draken yelled out loudly as he began to speak to his army. It's time to show every single hero just how pathetic they truly are. The heroes in this universe are weak, even if they have a team of Rangers in it. It is only a matter of time before we kill them all and conquer this earth, he said, clenching his right hand into a fist before speaking again. But it is not enough for them to die. We want them to know how weak they truly are, and we want every single person on this planet to see them suffer. He then swings his right arm dramatically to the side to speak some more. So on the day they finally meet us true evil villains, they will gladly welcome the death we'll offer them. He finished his speech with the male troops cheering his name down below, making Lord Draken smirk underneath his helmet along with bringing his arms up slowly in the air, basking in the cheers. Meanwhile, Tamura and Kurogiri both had awestruck expressions on their faces at the sight before them as they were completely speechless. Just what in the hell did we get ourselves into? The two villains both thought together as this was villainy on a whole other level. Our plans are already in the motions. We're going to launch our first assault at the USJ, as in the agreement we made with All for One, Lord Draken said as he slightly turned his body back towards Tamura and Kurogiri, who are now listening to the evil ranger. I have no father demands to place upon the both of two or those small-time thugs you rounded up off the streets. However, the United Alliance of Evil is willing to do whatever it takes to conquer this planet and other worlds across the multiverse, no matter the cast. So I'll ask the both of you, do you have the same resolve as us to conquer this world? He asked the two villains to see how far they were going to achieve their goals. Then a wicked evil grin appears on Tamura's face as he chuckles like a kid in a candy store, before giving his answer to Lord Draken. Of course, Draken, if it means I get to kill that stupid symbol of peace for good and destroy anything I don't like in the process, then you can count me on this new game, Torma stated darkly to his new ally, Amamiya resident knight. Later on that night at Ren's house, it was the middle of the night with a thunderstorm going on outside. Iri and Sayla were inside sleeping from today's events, and Ren's father pretty much had a shocking expression once learning about what happened to his son and their new house guests, but was pretty much blown over after learning he was okay. Ren was walking outside of his house before stopping in his tracks and looking up into the sky with a serious expression on his face. He dressed in his sleeping clothes as he was still bandaged up from his battle against the demons from the other world. Zaref, Tartaros, and Ren thought, remembering what happened in the fairy tale universe and the information that Sayla told them. Then there's the Disaz. He clenched his fist hard to remember the war he fought to save Asuka and the other magical girl's world, and the break-in at the school. The ranger growled in frustration, remembering how two villains managed to break so easily. No matter what world he is in or goes to, there will also be evil there ruining innocent people's lives for their own wicked desires. He may not have cared about this whole hero versus villain bullshit, but he would be damned to let evil people continue to do as they please for the dumbest reasons while also dragging innocent bystanders into their messes. He just can't stand by and watch all of this happening and going unpunished, so if this was his fate as a Power Ranger, then that was fine by him. I vow, from here on out, no matter when or where, who or what or whatever difficulty challenge I'll have to face, Ren said with a serious expression unlike anything he had shown before, as he raised his left arm in the air with the Master Morpher attached to his wrist. I will crush all evil wherever it hides, he declared to himself as he ignited a massive multicolored aura around himself, with his Master Morpher glowing very brightly. Then something unexpected happened. The Master Morpher released a gigantic burst of grid energy that spread across the entire planet and universe in less than a few seconds. Ren then dropped the multicolored aura around himself and was breathing heavily at the amount of power he just released, while keeping himself from collapsing from exhaustion. Whatever the future has instructed for me and my team, we'll be ready to take it on at full force, Ren said, regaining his breath. I never wanted to be a hero to begin with, but I'll be damned if I'm going to let some evil scumbags walk away with the last laugh. People like that need to be dealt with by us Rangers, he stated before going back inside his house to rest. He's going to teach his world and the rest of the multiverse a very important lesson that they will never forgive for the rest of their lives. Sometimes every Ranger enemy learned the hard way is that you don't ever mess with the Power Rangers. Meanwhile, across the entire multiverse, after Ren released a massive burst of grid energy from his Master Morpher, it traveled across the entire multiverse like a tide wave of pure energy for every person to feel. But for some reason, every evil bad guy, villain, monster, alien, spirit, beast, demon or devil, deity, warlord, murderer, dictator, assassin, scientist, terrorist, cultist, tyrant, and any other evil person out there who was planning something horribly wicked or completely unforgivable felt a great chill of dread go down their spines. It was as if there was a power and a force that they'd never felt before that would threaten their very well-being and existence, and couldn't undo any of their evil schemes in an instant. Each of these evil people felt an emotion that they wished they hadn't, fear. Little did they know that a group of heroes with attitude would soon arrive in their worlds and show them what happens when they decide to start unnecessary trouble that will harm the lives of the innocent. Heroes who will never stop until justice is served to the ones they are punishing. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 13. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.